All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming out. We are streaming live. I want to thank you for coming out to Monday Night Politics. Uh, we have, and I want to thank Ms. Molly Bell, who's the publisher of Dallas. So let's give Molly a round of applause. The Dallas Examiner has done a great job for 18 years now of hosting Monday Night Politics, and in between Monday Night Politics, a few years ago, they started community conversations. So that way we can keep our community informed of important issues between elections. For those who I haven't met don't know, got that? My name is Casey Thomas, former Mayor Pro Tem and Councilman for District 3, and I've served as moderator of Monday Night Politics for a number of years, and so it's an honor to be able to welcome each of you. Just a few things. The Dallas Examiner does not endorse candidates. All candidates running for elected office are invited to participate. The Dallas Examiner could not do Monday Night Politics without our sponsors or nonprofit organizations. Our sponsors include the Dallas Fraternity Sororities, the NPHC, the NAACP, the Links, Our Vote is Our Voice, the Young Professionals of the National Urban League, St. Louis Community Methodist Church, Political Action Committee, and the African American Museum. So we want to thank all of those organizations for their support over the past several years. As a former elected official, I want to take an opportunity to ask any current elected officials to please stand, even if you're on the panel. If you are an elected official or former elected official, please stand. All right, let's give a round of applause. Thank you for being here. You know, one thing I can say about Ms. Bell, and this is not on the script, she does a good job of making sure that individuals who have served in the elected office continue to be involved and engaged in the community. Former Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Eric Wilson moderates Monday Night Politics, and you'll be hearing from him shortly. Tonight we have three very important forums. I'm honored to moderate our discussion on the upcoming City of Dallas bond election. Hopefully all of you that live in the City of Dallas are aware of the fact that there is a bond election. We're gonna have a lot more detail about that shortly. There's also a candidate forum for the Dallas College Board of Trustees, District 7, and DSD Trustee District 9, Dallas ISD Trustee District 9. And unless Ms. Bell tells me otherwise, that is the format that we will follow tonight. So those candidates who are here, then you can govern yourself accordingly. This is your opportunity to learn about the candidates and their platforms and the issues on the ballot May 4th. We want you to be informed voters when you go to the polls. You are influencers in our community, so help educate others. You will have an opportunity to ask your own questions to the panelists for the bond election and the candidates running for trustee positions. And we ask once again, if you would silence your phones. We are streaming live this discussion. You can tell your friends to go on the Dallas Examiner Facebook page and the YouTube station, and they can watch if they're not able to be here. I guess everybody at home watching, I guess. All right, so without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and begin our discussion on the bond. So I'm gonna ask former colleague Paula Blackman, successor, Councilman Zarin Gracie, to come on up. If you give him a round of applause, please. So what we're going to start with is I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to just introduce yourself, talk about a little bit about your chance to brag on your district. We'll give you about 2 or 3 minutes to do that. And this portion will be respectful. There are a couple of other forums going to take place, but it won't be under the same restrictions as you're used to as a candidate. You'll have an opportunity to discuss different components of the bond, things of that nature. So we're going to go ahead, ladies first, and we'll start with you. Councilwoman Black.
Good evening. How are y'all tonight? Thank you for having me here. I'm Paula Blackman, and I serve as the District 9 Council Representative, which is White Rock Lake. That is the center of D9. And I've been serving for 3 terms, so this has been me on my 6th year. But it's one of the best jobs that I have had. I served under Mike Miles in DISD. I've served under Mike Rawlings, Tom Leppard, so I have some pretty extensive experience at City Hall. But I'm really excited about this bond package because we're prioritizing what you want. We've heard you wanted parks, we've heard you wanted your streets fixed, infrastructure, housing, and we put that in this bond. And we're going to talk a little bit about it, what it means in our communities. And I'm excited to say that I've allocated money for a dredge project. We've had several incidences around White Rock Lake, but we really need to clean up some of the silt that's coming in there, as well as keep it healthy, because we found out that during the pandemic, people wanted to be in open space, and we need to make sure it's healthy. So I'm excited to be here and talk about it, and I look forward to the questions. Thank you.
All right. Grace.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Zarin Gracie, Councilmember for District 3. Extremely excited to be here and extremely excited to really be here before you from this perspective. As many of you may or may not know, I work for the city, dealt with the bond program, so I'm familiar with it on the financing side, having been newly elected and walking in straight into this bond program. You know, our colleagues, we went back and forth in terms of what I'm calling lobbying for projects and things in the district, and really excited about the outcome. I think we landed in a place that we were all fairly satisfied with, and I think it's something that's really going to benefit the entire city, particularly in District 3. Have a lot of projects that I'm excited about. One in particular, obviously, is Glendale Park that came up while I was campaigning, and I'm happy to say that we got that one across the finish line and got that one fully funded with about just north of $11 million, with more on the way to help with the pedestrian bridge across the street. So looking forward to this discussion tonight and looking forward to your questions. So thank you so much.
All right, very good. So if you would, and we're gonna have you, Councilman Blackman, talk about this. If you would, talk about what a bond election is and why the council and the city decided to do a bond election at this time.
So the last bond that we went out for was in 2017, and as you can see, that's about 7 years. And what a bond election does is it's our investment in our infrastructure. So it's not what we invest in people or in things, but it actually invests in the buildings that these people office in. And so what we have done is prioritized through community involvement. We've had sub-task force, task force, council, park board, culture and arts affairs, all library commission, all give us their feedback to what needs to be in a bond. And given we have a capacity in which we can sell these bonds, because we know that certain amounts of money can be borrowed. And we don't want to raise it to the maximum, but we are going pretty deep into this bond because we have a lot of need. If you look at our needs infrastructure assessment and inventory, it is pretty extensive. So we have prioritized people's wants and their desires in their community to invest in the infrastructure, the buildings, the items that you see tangible. And we will probably get into the specifics of each. But we did do extensive community input and receive that. I know I did. I got information across my district. We took it from the city. And so we are giving back what people want. But you have to also remember, we have 15 people on council and it takes 8 votes. So there may not be some things that are high as you want it, but know that it doesn't mean that we can't get there with other forms of buckets of money. So with that, I mean, I will be talking more about specifics.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Councilman Gracie, talk about how you went about identifying those projects that would be priority for your district.
Thank you for that. So as you all know, let me back up just a little bit and talk about really the task force that was established really to help go through and identify the projects in each district. So there were a crew of Mr. Demas was on one of them. I can never remember which economic development, but we all had representatives from our district that kind of represented each proposition. So each one of them worked collectively. I think there were a total of about 90 folks working together to identify different projects within the districts. And I think a lot of conversation that came up during that process was centered around the erosion control. Not a sexy project, it's not anything, but it's absolutely necessary, particularly in District 3 and many of 3, 4, 8, and parts of 1 and 9. If you have a creek in your district anywhere and you live near that creek, you can understand the necessity to ensure that our erosion control is shored up. I've visited homes in my district where I've seen sheds in creeks, trees in creeks as a result of this erosion control. So that was one that was kind of a no-brainer. We had a lot of streets, propositions and things like that. District 3 streets are great, but our alleys not so much. So when we start looking at projects and where we want to allocate, we want to decide, okay, our streets and our erosion control, our alleys and our erosion control are two major items within District 3 that needed priority to ensure the future of not just that home, but of the neighborhood as well. So that was just one area where I focused on quite a bit.
Excellent, thank you very much. Councilman Mazadula has arrived. I'm gonna give you a chance to do like I asked your colleagues, or former colleagues, or successor, which is just introduce yourself, talk about your district and priorities for your district. You can include that.
Well, thank you, and good to see you, still civically engaged, and I love, congratulations in your role. Thank y'all for being here. My name is Adam Bazaldua. I have the honor of serving South Dallas, Southeast Dallas, and District 7 on the City Council. I am excited for this opportunity to share with y'all the importance of this opportunity with the bond. For so many times, I believe that the bond has not necessarily been a reflection of the menu of the priorities of our city. And I can confidently say that that's not necessarily the case this time. I would have loved to have seen more investment in people-driven projects like affordable housing, and I think I was very vocal of that through the process. But in the end, I believe that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us to really address equity in a way that we haven't before with the bond package. And I do want to give a big shout out. I have Jennifer here, who was served on our District 7 bond task force for our streets proposition, which is the largest in the whole package. So I look forward to the questions, and thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, thank you very much.
Oh, and I thought it was 6:30, so I apologize for my tardiness.
Yeah, well, it's not the format you're used to as candidates. That'll be next year. Today is not.
It's still a little traumatic, you know.
And so,
Yeah.
so in terms of timing of you answering the questions, not 2 minutes or things of that nature, you have time to elaborate on the questions, and we definitely want to get our audience a chance to ask questions. But what I want to do is, how many propositions are there?
10.
There are 10 propositions. All right. What I'm going to do is have each of you talk about, let's say, we'll have each of you do 3, and Darren, you're the newbie, so we'll have you do 4, okay? You can each talk about each of the propositions, and we'll just do it in order. That way it'll be simple, okay? And if it's one proposition that you talk about that was a priority for you, for the project in particular, then you can elaborate on that. So
Okay.
3, Darren, you do the last 4.
Sounds good. Well, I will start with that large proposition of the streets, and it's $521 million. I don't think that I have to convince any of you all that we need infrastructure improvement in our streets. The wear and tear on our cars is absolutely ridiculous, and in fact, to be the 9th largest city in the country and have our roads in the conditions that they're in is very embarrassing. Staff has instructed us that we needed to hit at least a $500 million threshold in order to get our worst road conditions met up to a zero degradation part. Right now, we have close to $4 billion of deferred maintenance in our streets. Right now, in our general fund budget, we allocate $150 million to addressing our maintenance on streets. As you can see with those discrepancies, that is a huge number that we're scratching the surface. I mean, if that. And the reality is, for us to ever get ahead, we're going to have influx of dollars in addition to some innovative approaches. And so through policy, we're going to match this type of an investment with looking at alternative revenue sources and ways that we can continue to beef up what we're investing in every year. But with this $521 million proposition, we're going to be able to increase essentially that $150 million annual investment to a $250 million investment plus. In some of those major projects are going to include adding funds to a federal grant that we got on MLK, and that's going to go from Robert Cullum all the way to the Cedar Crest Bridge. There's going to be huge complete street investments here in South Dallas that I'm really excited for, that I'm still working on trying to get a streetcar concept to be a part of the overall design. What we also have in South Dallas, Southern Dallas specifically, is the equity piece that I was mentioning. There often is a priority put because of the scoring in looking at these surfaces, and improved surfaces have a different score, which means unimproved alleys, for instance, communities that have never had their alleys paved before didn't make the list because they weren't in bad condition. Well, what we did was went through and reprioritized those neighborhoods that we've seen there is a need to improve their alleys and sidewalks. And so that equity component is huge. Instead of seeing a huge portion of these investment dollars in the infrastructure going into North Dallas and just repairing what we've already invested in, we're investing in communities that we have lacked and neglected to invest in the past, which is very important. The next one is $345 million to parks. Some of the highlights in Southern Dallas specifically are the Southern Gateway, Keys Park, Glendale Park, Singing Hills Aquatic Center, MLK Center, and Fair Park. And I want to say, Fair Park, I know voters went out and voted on the Brimer bill, and it afforded us an opportunity to bring $300 million, largest investment that we've ever done in Fair Park. But in addition to that, there were certain criteria that had to be met for us to have eligibility for those tax dollars. Where we are standing now, this crown jewel of our city is not eligible because we offer free programming. And since there's no ticket sales, it's not what the state consists of heads and beds. It doesn't get people from outside to travel here, and it's not a regional attraction for us to use hotel occupancy tax from our tourism. So because of that, we needed to make sure that money was here, and it may not be much, but about $5 million of that package is coming right here to the African American Museum for needed upgrades and improvements. So really excited for that. And that in itself, even though it's minimal on the grand scheme of that proposition, I encourage you to get that passed so that we can bring necessary improvements to this jewel of our city. And the last one is $52 million to critical flood protection and storm drainage. Now, there's not a whole lot of sexiness that I can give you to sell on stormwater and drainage, but I can tell you that it goes back to that equity piece. And we have a lot of creeks. We have a lot of erosion problems throughout Southern Dallas. We have a lot of people who their properties are being threatened by the erosion and their property lines. It's important for us to invest in improving a lot of these communities where, again, we've neglected to invest dollars in improving the erosion control and the flood control in neighborhoods. And that's what I'm most excited about for that proposition. And again, I encourage you to look at this as an opportunity to invest in equity. And when we're looking at where these dollars are being put in the city, I can tell you that that's another proposition that proportionately is much more of an investment into Southern Dallas than it is in North Dallas. And I encourage you to pass that as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague.
Okay, good job.
I got the really good stuff. I got public libraries, arts and culture, and public safety. So, so anyway, we're upgrading, we're putting in about $43 million to upgrade our public libraries. And what we found out, even today in our briefing, is public libraries are actually a place of convening. They're not like what we used to go to with just books. They're now a place with internet. You can now get online using their infrastructure, such as the terminal, check out things, job training. But we've also asked them, what else can you do? Like, can you put housing on top of it? Can you look at maybe a coffee shop, an incubator for small business? Learning how to grow a business. In other words, give the community whatever that community needs to become more of a community center and convening. And And so we've got, like I said, about 43 million, and specifically the North Oak Cliff Library will get a complete new reconstruction. And I know in that one, they are looking to do housing on top of that, because we just said we've got some pretty good real estate where these libraries are, and we need to maximize it. And I think that's a pretty good idea. 75 million will support and repair needs for city-owned facilities, the African American Museum. We know that there are efforts to strip away history, and places like this can preserve it. So I am happy to hear and be supportive of that 5 million to leverage other dollars. We've also got the Black Dance Theater and the South Dallas Cultural Center. I have a cultural center in White Rock Lake, the bathhouse, and that will get a few dollars to help with those needs. And then we have 90 million for public safety. And a bulk of that is the 50 million that will go to our training, new training academy at UNT Dallas. If we're gonna hold our police officers accountable, we need to train them. And then we need to make sure that we hold them accountable and we expect them to be the police that we expect, that we want. And so we also have other facilities around the district to help with upgrades in air conditioning via HVAC and roofing. And so with that, I will turn it over for the last four.
Councilman Grace.
All right, thank you. So I'm gonna walk you through economic development, housing, bond proposition for homeless solutions, and then 5 million on IT. So we'll start with the economic development. If you remember, if you were tracking this journey, you know, economic development, those numbers were going up and down, and we had a lot of money over in economic development. I'm sorry, in housing that eventually moved over into economic development because we learned that a lot of the money that we put in proposition for housing had to go for infrastructure. So a lot of folks ended up moving their funds over into economic development to ensure that we could use it for its intended purpose under the bond program, which is the infrastructure cost. However, it ended up being about 72 million there. And then there's some, I personally set about $1 million aside because I also wanted to continue to support small minority women-owned businesses. So I have a program that I'm going to be using. $1 million by itself isn't a lot of money, but leverage with partnerships and things like that can create a lot of opportunity to continue to support our minority women-owned businesses, particularly in the Oak Cliff area. So I'm working on doing that. As far as the housing is concerned, it's 26 million for smart, affordable housing solutions, really centered around the infrastructure. We talked about that. The programs to really help increase the home repair programs that we have. Those have been adjusted several times over the years to ensure that when people use those services, we're able to maximize those dollars to not just take care of a roof, but to actually take care of the entire home. And then this 19 million for homeless solutions. And again, there's a lot of controversy around that. And I think, you know, again, when it relates to housing, I think the city of Dallas, we need to address all of our housing issues, but we also need to make sure that we're being smart and intentional about what that looks like and where we are addressing those solutions. So that's one that we're there, and I think we're having a lot of discussions about that. Permanent supportive housing as a way to continue to stand up to find landing places for those who are at risk of losing their homes. And if we're being honest, maybe we're not being honest, but I can be honest for myself, we've all been just a paycheck or two away and really about it in the red for a couple of months, if we're being honest for real about this. So this is something that I don't want to pretend like this is a you problem or a they problem. This is an us problem, and it's something that we need to acknowledge. But I also just want to make sure that we're intentional about how we address it and where we address it as well. And then finally, the 5 million for IT infrastructure. Again, that one is not a sexy one, but if you've been watching any kind of news, if you've been hacked, your business has been hacked, nobody's safe out here. So what do they say, hide your kids, hide your wife, because these folks are out here taking information, and it is a very real risk. So this 5 million, not a lot of money, but a necessary investment to ensure that not just the city of Dallas's infrastructure, IT infrastructure is safe, but it also ensures that your data is safe, our data is safe as well. So this is a very wise investment. So with that, I'm going to stop in the interest of time and open it up.
Excellent. Before you sit down, we're gonna let the public in on the District 3 conversation. And this just came to me. were you made aware of the fact that we still had some ARPA dollars that were available for District 3?
I do.
I don't say what you use for, I just wanna make sure you're aware of it.
I am aware of it, which again, when I referenced $1 million leverage with other dollars, those other dollars are the ARPA funds that we're gonna be using to leverage to ensure that we have that much more money to support our small and minority women-owned businesses.
Good. Well, you know, I left you with several hundreds of thousands last
I
time.
got it
What
all.
you got the money.
I can find some.
All right, all right.
I referenced being broke, but one thing I can do is find money too. So.
All right, Mr. Rollins.
That was a District 3 conversation. Sorry. All right, so this is just for anybody who wants to answer it. When it comes time to looking at, gonna do a bond, and how much it's gonna be, and how much the cap is, I think, take them into that conversation. How did the council come to an agreement on what the cap, let us know what the cap was, and how did the council come to an agreement on what that cap was gonna be? And anybody can answer that.
We can all go.
That was a
So
softball.
I know, it's,
Okay, I
so
wanna make sure.
we get a report from our CFO
Yeah.
to know what our capacity is. So it's like your own credit, right? You know what your credit rating is and how much your capacity to borrow. And because of the timing of this bond, we could do 1.25 billion. And so then we went to what we followed the 2017 model, which I think is a great model that TC Broadnex brought, where we brought in community involvement. And we had subcommittees that y'all have been on, and we got feedback. So it became a bottom-up approach. Then it became, and I guess that's what I'm gonna let y'all talk about the issues of the politics that came in, because that's when then the tug and pull happened. Because some people wanted more for parks, some people wanted more for streets, some people wanted more for housing. And then it became, what do we do here? What projects? And it became that, like I said, a tug and a pull of what can we afford? What is the immediate needs? And is it doable? And so I'll turn it over and then y'all can take it from there.
Yeah, and we started a little bit. We started at $1 billion first initially, if you all remember, and we all kind of went through that process. But then we determined there were a couple of other things that we wanted to do. So then this discussion of discretionary funds started coming up, and then it eventually got shifted to district-specific funds. And we ended up adding another $125 million to that $1 billion bond program. That's how we got to where we are today. And with that equated to basically giving a number of, the council members the ability to have roughly about $9 million to really allocate within their districts according to some of the things, projects, the needs that they had within their district. For example, I used $2 million for housing. And again, understanding what I wanted to do and what the need was in District 3 in terms of single-family homes, I wanted to make sure that I had some available that would support single-family homes within the district. So I set aside $2 million for single-family homes over there. I also set aside $2 million for parks. Again, going back to Glendale, I knew that we had the funding for the park, but we still needed funding for the pedestrian bridge. So using my district-specific funds, I set aside some dollars to ensure that we could get that pedestrian bridge across the street to complete that project. So each council member had different projects that they needs in their districts that they wanted to. So then the question became, okay, well, can we afford to increase the bond? And again, we start talking, again, I'll use it simple, because again, I've been broke, your credit limit, right? Can we afford to do that? Can you afford to go get another credit card is basically what we're asking. If you have 5 of them and they're all extended, and you're paying them down, but they're still above the max, can we afford to go get another credit card to do these necessary things in our district that we wanted to do? So that was the conversation that we had, and that's what we came to kind of have that second round of conversations among ourselves. So I'll see if Baz wants to close this out.
I was a little bit on the outside of this debate, and I'm gonna.
Oh, you were in the middle.
I was on the outside of that side of the debate, but I will say that I was pushing for housing, and I wanted to see more robust investment in our unsheltered population. I believe again that we have an opportunity with such capacity to make sure that the investment is reflective in investing in people. And that's what I really wanted to see through the end. Unfortunately, that did not make it. But When we went the route of extending from 1.1 to 1.25 billion, it was a matter of, is this gonna still not require us to raise the taxes on the residents, which we do not have to raise our taxes. And the reason that we're able to do that is very similar. I use the analogy to what I did over COVID, which was I refinanced and took an equity loan from our mortgage, right? And from that, I was able to pay off my student loans and really was able to help free up my family's monthly expenses. And that's essentially what this bond is. This capacity that we have is already built in. Doesn't require us to tax you all more to do it. So adding that $150 million to the 1.1 original proposal, in my hope was going to address the underinvestment in certain propositions for the people, as I mentioned, arts, libraries, housing, homelessness. It worked out to where there was a majority will of the council to get the discretionary dollars. So to just piggyback on what was answered with where you put the discretionary, I put all of mine into homelessness. And I thought that there was an opportunity for us to really address that, because from the move that we made when we increased and went to the discretionary, we actually put homelessness down to about 8 million. And so it took a collective effort from all of us who were willing to match that back up and get it up to a $19 million. And I think that as we all see on an everyday basis, that we've got the need to be met, and that was why it was important for me to emphasize that. So that was my number one priority when it came to trying to get something further up. Housing, of course, I also would have loved to have seen more, but if you look, it's still very robust and it's historic. We've never in our city's history had a standalone proposition for housing or earmarked dollars specifically for gap funding for the financing and development of housing. And so even though it's not as much high as I want it, it is a huge win for our city, and that's what we have to focus on. So my disappointment was with my hat on as a council member. If I put my hat back on as a taxpayer, I cannot ignore the opportunity that we have with passing this bond and what it'll do for investing in people.
We're talking about discretionary funds, and like we said, we got 5 million. I did 2.5 for streets because in D9 I've got like 10 traffic studies going, and we needed to make sure we had a little bit of money to leverage our partner money. And then I did 2.5 for homelessness. We are one of the 2 districts that does not have a homelessness shelter activity, and I believe that everybody should have something in each district. And I set aside 2.5 million to help with that. We have it in our districts. It's in every district. And so to say that it's their problem, it's not. That's not a way to address something. And so I'm excited that we do have this bond. And I guess you want to probably round up or round off. And where are we now?
Well, I was going to see if anyone in the audience has questions for them, raise your hand. Okay, good. We do have some audience questions. Okay, I'm just getting the count. I'm getting the count. I'm pretty good at hands, so I've been doing this a long time. So yeah.
And one thing, I do want to applaud you, Casey, for bringing an equity element into this bond. I mean, let's be honest, we did not invest it equally across our city.
Yeah.
With this bond, we really did. Could we have done it better? Yes, but we really did have an equity lens in it. And so I'm okay saying, you know what, we need to invest in our city that needs the investment, because we're all Dallasites. And so I want to applaud you for actually saying, well, you need to do this as a city, as a council, as an organization. So thank you for doing that.
She didn't pay me for that, but I probably would be taking her lunch. But, you know, it does feel good once you leave for people to recognize the hard work that you put in, and so especially from your colleagues. So thank you for that. So what I want to do is, and y'all take a seat. Y'all take a seat. If you have a question, and this is just how I operate. I start from the front, and I just work my way back. Okay, and we'll just take those questions for the rest of the time. And so those who had your hand up, I will recognize you. You were first. You're right here near the front. So I'm gonna hand you the mic. Is it okay? You don't do it here, or how do we do it? I want to make sure. Right here. Okay. Yes.
All right. Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm a resident of District 2. And I want to ask a question regarding, so it's essentially just two questions regarding Proposition F, the public safety one, and the $50 million to go towards the new police training facility. This past weekend, we went out canvassing in District 8, and we went into the neighborhoods talking to residents. A lot of the residents were not aware of this. And the language specifically for Proposition F for that bond is very vague. It only says 90 million. It does not say that a big chunk of it is going towards a new police training facility. So my two questions are, is one, why were there not town halls? Because we're actually having an upcoming town hall to educate the community about this. And two, why was this specific 50 million not a separate proposition?
Anybody would like to address that?
I'll answer the second question first because I remember it real quick. And the proposition language is very specific on legality, on state statute that really kind of guides us on how they were. So that's one of the reasons, for instance, for gap financing, that there was a portion of what we ended with that was housing. That went over to the economic development because by state law, it was required to be in the bucket that was labeled that. So I don't necessarily know that we had, we were afforded the opportunity to break up specific projects within what was considered the public safety umbrella. So that's why that proposition is labeled that, and it's essentially everything high level underneath that. Regarding the training facility, I will say that specific plans, I don't believe, have been out in the public's with town halls. However, this has been a conversation for several years now. In fact, it's been a priority for the city down in Austin for the past 2 legislative sessions, lobbying to our delegation to have matched state funding. The funding that this came in actually came in at the back end because we've gotten that match funding from our federal and our state partners. And this investment was the city now putting our match into where we've gotten from our delegation above. So this wasn't on a whim, and it wasn't something that came in the last minute. And I think that our role in contributing funding came in at the last minute once we knew that we were buttoned up on where we were. And so from that due diligence, we turned a project that's going to be, again, a state-of-the-art facility for training that we are not asking the taxpayers to foot the full bill on. In fact, the taxpayers are going to be footing a third of the bill because of the lobbying efforts that we've had and the match funding that we have. So I hope that answers your question. And I know that that there will be a priority not only with our police chief and the command staff to make sure that the community is made aware and has town halls, but I also know that the District 8 council member will prioritize making that happen as well.
So I know we have a lot of new faces that are here, so I want to go over just a couple of ground rules because I know we're getting close on time. Those who had your hand up, you will get your question answered. I think I saw 5 hands, but we're not going to be able to add anyone unless Ms. Bell says otherwise, because we want to make sure that we have enough time for the candidates and those who you hear who live in the districts of the candidates for them to get the question answered. So I just said that, and then normally what we do is we give you about 30 seconds for your lead in, okay? And then we have you ask a question because I think we're within the last 10 minutes. So, Pastor Parrish.
I just wanted to just add also, the reason that there's not specified, there is gives us a little bit of a flexibility. Say we have a philanthropist or a private organization that we could potentially get a $5 million gift for. That $50 million that you know of now, we aren't binding the taxpayers to that decision. It still gives us flexibility to leverage our partners and our other lobbying efforts so that it may end up being less of an investment within that bucket towards the training facility specifically.
All right, Reverend Donald Parrish Jr., District 7. I have 2 questions, and it's really 3. But the first one is, I'm a preacher, so you can ask.
So I'm gonna let him make it.
Thank you, Casey. I appreciate that. But seriously, we deal with legacy issues that we hear previous bonds are supposed to cover that they don't. Is there any leeway in this bond package to kind of clean some of that stuff up? And that leads into some other 2 questions. For example, here in District 7, near Elsie Faye Higgins and Robert B. Cullum, that park that's like not too far from the intersection floods every time it rains, right? Same thing where Elsa Faye Higgins turns into Dolphin, right? It floods constantly. Is there any leeway in this bond package to, because we've heard previously, even before any of you guys were elected, right? We've heard that this is supposed to be fixed and it wasn't. And then secondly, AT&T is, I can almost throw a rock from my church and hit AT&T's headquarters, but our internet continues to be some of the worst in the city. And this part of and is there anything in that bond package? You know, I heard about the amount of money, you know, towards the infrastructure, but is there anything in there? Again, these are legacy issues that we've been dealing with for 20, 30 years, but can we clean some of that stuff up in this bond? Thank you.
Yes, I'll make sure and get you the complete list, Reverend Parrish, on the projects that have been identified specifically for the flood proposition. I, off the top of my head, can't tell you exactly if that one particular is. I know the flooding issues that you mentioned. I think a lot of the priority went with that equity calculator on to addressing the private property issues that are existing, like the homeowners that I was mentioning. So let me just verify on that before I can give you an answer. Regarding the broadband, we have an investment with our ARPA dollars kind of already earmarked, set aside. And what we've been doing for almost 2 years now is debating how that is going to look. The original proposal that staff came was going to be more than $30 million specifically to a broadband infrastructure that was invested in specifically for Southern Dallas to close in the gaps of where digital divide is. We pushed back as policymakers because we didn't like the proposal in what it was asking. It was going for a middle mile network that would require us to be play a role as municipal government that we didn't necessarily feel was our role. And we didn't want to get into owning a utility instead of looking at a $30 million investment. As you mentioned, we have such a legacy issue to address. That if you can't tell me how many homes are going to be sparked up from that type of investment, then that's not worth it to us. So we pushed back on staff and asked them to bring us different options, including what a last mile would look like and how we can leverage that type of an investment to actually get people online instead of just putting it into the ground to build our own fiber system that is quite frankly redundant because the other carriers already have them in the ground. Yes, sir. Thank you.
I understand y'all's expectation on the housing part, where you went from 100 down to 26 to 28. But I was told that Austin, San Antonio, and Houston,
They had a huge bond.
they have a huge amount allocated for housing. And I understand what you're saying about y'all move some to economic development to make sure the infrastructure part was taken care of. But how do you justify for 100 million down to 28 when everybody else is at 150, 200 million? How do you justify that?
That was what legal had told us. And we asked the same question and they said, what they identified was we needed that gap funding for the infrastructure. And that was how they structured it. And
He's asking how do we go from that high number down to
oh, well, that is a political question. The actual number, okay, the actual number was it was political. Some people felt that the need was there, but the desire to actually fund it was not because of our past history with housing in that department. But what was failed to get to the understanding until the end was the infrastructure needs. And then it became confusing, and then it became the discretionary that led to the economic development discussion in parcel. But it was all political. If y'all want to add any of it,
I was just going to say that there was a context and it became somewhat of a public fight. And I'll tell you, and my old colleague can attest to this, I'm the first to say that the first on the chopping block is our parks, arts, and libraries. And that was what I wanted to protect the most. So it was unfortunate, but because of the tone and because of the political nature at the time and certain members' campaigning efforts for their priority, it essentially pinned some people who were prioritizing other things against parks. So it became you're either for parks or you're
anti-parks.
Or you're anti-parks.
Literally called anti-parks.
And that was the political component that really made it very hard for us to look at we've got all these needs, and I wish we could have peanut butter spread through every single one of these propositions, and that just unfortunately wasn't the reality. So I just wanted to give that context that it became where priorities were being pinned against each other instead of us looking at a holistic approach of where we needed to
And I mean,
invest.
our housing, our homelessness was at what, 7 million? I mean, we brought it up to 19 because of discretionary funding. So it was any type of housing across the board because of this narrative.
This is a blessing come true. I speak to city council, I always wanted to ask questions after I speak. I'm getting, I love this one.
We have 1 minute.
Why is it only 1% of the money going towards homelessness for several budgets and several bond elections? 1% of the money. 2, when I go to the meetings, I'm always by myself. There's no caseworkers, no homeless people, no city council members, the different homeless committee meetings. I'm always by myself for the past 10 years, okay? Number 3, why can't you invite the homeless where the pond is, where the library is, to come to city council meetings? If you did that, you have a lot more people interested in you, city council, that they would like. They'd be more favorable to talk to you. It's so easy, but why is that? You go to NIMBY or what? Why is it you can't go to the pond? I've been saying this all this time. And one more question. Oh yeah, when I first got here, partnership, 75% people came to the meeting. Now, 2 people come to me, okay? So there was a question, if you can remember it, but I'm definitely, why is it you don't do anything? Why is it you don't respond? And why is it when I talk to people, that you look at your feet? Okay, I'm talking to city councilmen when I talk to them. Okay? Thank you very much.
No, Robert, I hear you talking.
And Robert, I'll say I do appreciate you, and whether you believe it or not, there are a number of us that are actually paying attention and listening to you in that, which is why we're having the discussion that we are. I mean, you think about it, 2017 may have been the first bond where we actually had homeless proposition in there. So to really just kind of overall address kind of your concerns, I think what we're trying to do is be more intentional and more strategic about how we address our unhoused neighbors from there. But you're absolutely right in terms of needing to be more inclusive with the discussion in terms of what's needed, what they need, not necessarily trying to prescribe what's needed for them from there. So I think what you see is just an effort for us to really, get a better understanding of what the need is, but also try to address it at every level of the home.
Invite the homeless people to the meetings. Go to the library. If you don't do that, they have no hope.
Another point about, we don't go back and forth with the candidates. That's the real go back and forth, when you ask your question.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Just so you know.
that's a good point. And again, trying to figure out what that looks like. And again, I would encourage you, bring 2 or 3. It's like church, bring 2 or 3. Don't come alone, bring a couple of them with you, and let's have some conversations. I'd be happy to huddle up and talk about some of the things we're doing, but also just appreciate the perspectives and understanding, to your point, is what we're prescribing and what we're doing, is that the right approach? Is that being addressed? And I think we have a number of partners who have been working to do that. And I think Housing Forward is one that we've been working with and really trying to hold them accountable in terms of, and not just them, but our neighboring cities as well, to address this collectively. It's not just a city of Dallas issue. It's not just a Dallas County. It is an entire, it's a Dallas County issue in all of our neighboring cities as well. But your messages are received. I encourage you to invite 1 or 2 with you next time.
Very good. Lay first to Mr. Demus, and that'll be the last question. Ma'am.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you very much. I am Ola Allen, and my question is to.
Good evening.
I know you did. I know you did. Everybody will. My main concern, and this is going to go to Adam. As you know, Skyline we've been fighting for years and years on sidewalks, and we've never had the sidewalks. And finally, when they built Guzik, we finally got one side of sidewalks. And I have called your office, I have left messages, I have left you an email. Then I called the office one time and it told me, I'm sorry, but, the volume is full and we cannot accept any calls. And that was kind of really leery to me, a public, phone, that serves the public from city council, and it's full. But my concern is that I was hoping that I call you early, because I hope we had some money left over from the last one, that we could finish the sidewalks. Sidewalks are so important and they are really needed at Skyline. And I am hoping that you will look into, I hate to bring our dirty laundries and put them on the line here to you guys, but you have to do it. But we need you to complete our sidewalks.
Yes, ma'am. And I since you did air a little dirty laundry, I think it's only fair. The last time you reached out to my office, it was about an issue in District 4, and that was actually just this past month. And I said respectfully that I wanted to make sure that my colleague, out of respect as I would have done for any of my colleagues, had an opportunity to speak with you before I took one of her constituents about an issue that wasn't in my district.
But why would I be calling about District 4?
I don't know why you did, but that was what was on the emails, and that was also what you discussed with my staff. And Ms. Allen, you have a direct line to me. We served on a DISD task force together, and so I just want you to know you have an open line for me. Regarding the sidewalks at Skyline, I do not recall you bringing that to my attention.
I did.
And in fact, as I mentioned, we have our bond task force representative here where we had several meetings out in the community, and that actually never came up as a priority that was asked for by the public.
It came up when I was PTA president.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
anyway,
And so it's not meant to
I'll
be.
tell you what, we'll
No,
just talk, okay?
But what the point is that I'm making is that what we really tried to do was utilize the process that was put in place to hear from the public. And we did, we heard. And what we did was even look at the list granularly, every line by line, me and Jennifer, and we went through not only what staff was telling us should be prioritized, but then taking into consideration where we actually heard from people. If you're taking the time to come to these meetings, if you're taking the time to advocate for your street or your property, that was where our priority was. Because we wanted to make sure that this investment, at least within the districts that we could control, reflected exactly what you're mentioning, those that came and made it a point to bring these projects to the forefront. And so I apologize for what didn't happen in the last bond. It was before I got on the council. And I will tell you that there was already even some reprogramming by the time I got on the council to what that original bond package was. But as a former educator to Skyline and someone who lives in the neighborhood of Skyline, I can tell you that it's 100% a priority. I do believe that this is a great opportunity, though, to look at where we have also awarded DISD a monumental bond in their history. That other tax entity that takes even more of the tax portion of the taxpayers' dollars, and that there was a proposition specifically within their bond that was meant to have matching dollars for municipal greater benefit to the students. In fact, we're looking at some of those bond dollars over here at MLK Academy and how we can connect a pedestrian corridor to the New Forest Theater. This is a great opportunity and a project that would be a direct benefit to the student body of the largest public high school in the state. And I'm willing to sit down with you and see if we can get our partners at DISD to entertain that discussion.
Well, that sounds real great to me.
Student side of respect.
No,
We don't go back and forth. We don't go back. That's thank you. No, students.
Last week, let her have the last slide.
All right, let's give it up to him for that.
Thank you, sir.
Sure, all right.
Thank you so much. My name is Brittany English. I'm in District 3. And my question is twofold. So how much is the total price tag for the police training facility? I know it was mentioned there's like a match happening, I think. So if it's $50 million, if Proposition F is approved, that's $50 million of taxpayers, $10 million from Community Foundations of Texas, and then what is the rest? Okay, and so I want to know the total price tag and what the breakdown is. And then my second question is, what was the thought process of having this facility on UNT Dallas's campus in a predominantly Black and brown community, knowing the disproportionate amount of profiling, brutalizing, and murder that occurs with police officers with Black and brown people?
So I think that we were just talking about that. I think total dollar amount is about 125 million. I don't have the exact breakdown in terms
50
of.
from the state, 50
Uh,
from us.
I think they're saying 50 from the state and 50 from us, and I'm not sure. From private dollars, from federal to private dollars. So that's one side. Now let me just back up a little bit and talk about just the need, because I hear you. Just for the police training facility in general, let's just start there first. That is a terrible, terrible, terrible sight in terms of what our officers are using in order to go through their training process. That facility is old, and I don't remember when, how long they've been over there, but I've toured it. It's in District 3, and it's terrible. It's a terrible facility. So there's a need for a new training facility. Now, the science behind placing it at UNT, the best I can tell, and I'll let one of my colleagues jump in on that, but some of it really centers around just the workforce and that being an education corridor and trying to find the opportunities that can move into public safety as another career opportunity from that perspective. So I'll stop there and let some of my colleagues
Because we are
With UNT
leveraging
dollars.
state dollars, it's on a state facility. So that's why UNT Dallas. And so, we already have partnerships down there. We have partnerships with the Bill Carruth, Center. And so it was because of where, we were getting that 50 million, it was decided to be placed on a state-owned facility.
You want to add to that?
I do. I want to say that I appreciate the comment, and it's something that I think I'm pretty vocal about when it comes to public safety, and that accountability factor with the police is something that I also think is held to a high priority by our chief. In fact, he's been willing through general orders or policy decisions to amend certain things like the decriminalization of marijuana, for instance. When you look at the arrest records, it's really reflective. Data was just glaring at the disproportionate enforcement of petty crimes specifically to brown and black communities. And it's one that I would believe is much greater of an impact to the relationship overall in our brown and black communities with law enforcement than it is to have a training facility smack dab in the middle. So I want to say that if you look at the data, we're already making strides and efforts to not only decrease the amount of arrests so that we're not perpetuating the school to prison pipeline, if you will, and we are also taking measures that we can within our local jurisdiction to address some of the disparities that have been identified within law enforcement. And I personally would say that I think that that's much more of an impact to repairing the relationships within the community to law enforcement than focusing on the geographic location specifically. And I don't say that to discount what you're mentioning, but I want to just point out exactly, as my colleague mentioned, it's already in a brown and black community. It's smack dab in Oak Cliff. And so I don't believe that it's meant to be signaling of any sort. I'm hoping that the presence within the community and within the neighboring investments to the trail systems, to the recreation center, to UNT Dallas being our city's only major university within our city limits, I'm hoping that it just adds to our level of commitment to invest more into brown and black communities.
All right, very good.
Can we, want us to give the dates?
Sure.
Come on, guys. So you're wondering when this election is,
Auntie
right?
Paula.
Come on, boys. Anyway, May 4th, so vote for all 10 props on May 4th, because it's an investment in your future. Early voting starts April 22nd through Tuesday, April 30th. Super Sunday is on the 28th, April 28th, and those poll times are noon to 6. And as I mentioned, Election Day is May 4th. So vote for all 10 props.
May the fourth be with you.
Oh, you did. That was when we first ran, remember? Come on, you guys say it.
May 4th.
So let's give the council a little round of applause. Thank you for coming out, taking time out of your busy schedule to educate and inform the community not only about the bond, but those priorities, those projects that are priorities for you. It is being streamed, so your constituents from all over the city are watching. I want to thank Randall for making sure that we have our council members here and making sure that the information is accurate and it's available. So thank you, Randall. We appreciate that. The information's out in the hallway. So
Yard signs?
Yard signs,
Yard
information, and opportunity to get behind the campaign. Thank you very much. I'm gonna transition now. I'm gonna bring out former Mayor Pro Tem Eric Wilson to facilitate the candidate forum. Thank you so much for being here for this.
Once again, I want to thank Councilman Casey Thomas for his work and give him another round of applause. All right, I'm gonna have to tell Chrissy her job is still safe, so you know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? All right, this side's awake over here. This side must have gone to sleep. All right, how we doing this evening?
Great.
All right. My name is Eric K. Wilson, and I am your moderator for tonight. I'd like to welcome you out, those of you who are in the audience, and those of you who are streaming online. Please, if you're streaming online, share and like, so that more individuals will have an opportunity to be informed. For those that may not know, and this is speaking to the candidates, you may have blinked a couple of times in the instruction that was given to you. So you will have a 2-minute opening and 1 minute to respond. And then from there, we'll go down asking questions. The audience will have a chance to ask questions. Audience, please, remember, we understand there was a beginning to whatever your question is. We ask you to get to the point of your question, all right? We do not go back and forth, and we're here to educate, okay? Candidates, we do not go back and forth with one another. You're here to educate individuals who may or may not be familiar with your campaign and who you are. This is your opportunity to show them who you are as a candidate and why you're vying for this particular position. All right, now that we have all that said, all hearts and minds clear? All right, let's get down to the nitty gritty. All right, so first we'll begin with the Dallas College Board Trustee District 7 race. And I have DeAndre Fleming, Joseph Rodriguez, Jasmine Anderson, and Keisha O'Reilly. If you would, please come to the stage and I'll order you up accordingly so it makes it a lot easier on myself. I believe we only have 3 of the candidates. So first I'll ask Joseph Rodriguez if you would take this seat. So let's begin. We'll begin with Mr. Rodriguez. You'll have the first question, and the first question is the first speaking part is your opening, your 2-minute opening statement, and then followed by questions. All right? Okay. If you would, walk to the mic. And as you are addressing your questions, I may ask you a question. That's great, but they would love to see your face, not only in the audience, but online.
You got it. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Awesome. I grew up at Pentecostal, so I'm, got that calm response. My name is Joey Rodriguez. Joseph is my government, but on the ballot it will be Joey Rodriguez. I've dedicated my entire life and career to education. I'm a product of 2 immigrant parents, both from Mexico. My mom is from Durango, my dad is from Juarez. And they often told me about a dream that they had about this otro lado, is what they called it, the other side, where students and kids everywhere here had the opportunity to be whatever they wanted to be. I got here with my brother and realized that truth wasn't all the way true. And that there are certain systems that just were never really built for us. So I did what everybody does when they want to change the world. I became a teacher. In Dallas ISD, they let me teach 7th graders, believe it or not. And so after that experience, I realized that feeling of not having access to certain information, not having access to opportunities was not exclusive to the Latino community, was not exclusive to first-generation kids. It was also being had by my Black siblings as well, right? And our Black students that I used to teach over at Hulsey. I had the honor of teaching at Hulsey Middle School, as well as Ignite. And so my priorities are simple here at Dallas College. I really want to make sure that we're improving workforce readiness at the Dallas College level. When our students can start making a living and thriving wage and closing those gaps, I believe that we will have a thriving city. We need to go make sure that we are prioritizing the transfers, the students that are going from our 2-year to a 4-year institution, to make sure that they actually complete once they are actually at the 4-year. Right now, it's under 45% in the state of Texas. that are actually completing after leaving our community college. And then third, our P-Tech programs and early college programs. 33% of our students are in high school at Dallas College, and so making sure that we are taking care of our students who are in both institutions.
All right, thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, and thank you guys for having me. My name is Jasmine Anderson. I'm Southern Dallas resident, graduate of Lincoln High School from 1993. Formerly the director of real estate for Dallas College, and kind of responsible for putting together a large portion of the bond program that we've had. I'm also a former District 4 City Planning Commissioner, as well as sitting on various boards, former educator. My background's in architecture, real estate development, finance, and community development. And what I'd like to do is try to help residents in the area of District 7, excuse me, of Area 7, to be better prepared for, of course, college readiness, to prepare the area in terms of the students, the older generation that also needs further education and continuing education, to have that opportunity to come in and help with moving the entire area forward. My main goal is to help provide access to all the students in various forms of access, to provide different facilities, different levels of education, to provide this for our population so that we can help play a better role in the overall district. Thank you.
Next.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm Dr. Keisha O'Reilly on the ballot. You will see Keisha Nicholas O'Reilly. I stand before you to say thank you for coming out. I am a mother, I'm a daughter, but I'm also a committed community advocate. By trade, I am a licensed pharmacist, but I've had multiple experiences. God has definitely been good to me. Educator, I've had the opportunity of actually being a professor at Howard University while I was there. Yeah, go HU, if there are any real HUs in the house. In addition, I am a resident of Southern Dallas. I'm committed to being here in South Dallas. I've invested in South Dallas. I am a taxpayer in South Dallas, and so really wanted to be able to come out and advocate for the future of our community. I love the fact of the bond and being able to really sit and listen and get a better idea on how, if I am elected as board trustee for Dallas College, the opportunities for partnerships, the opportunities for being able to really truly support the students that we have here that are going to, they're actually at Dallas College, and then the ones that I see every day while I'm out in the community that don't know anything about the school or don't even see themselves as being products of a graduate of Dallas College. And so here tonight, I just thank you again.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Anderson, you have the first question. Our first question is, what made you run for this position and what qualifications do you have?
Well, in my role of director of real estate for Dallas College, we worked with each one of the colleges in each community to create master plans, to evaluate the needs of each college and the needs of each community. And in that process, we began to learn the various gaps that we have in offerings, the gaps that we have in general understanding of how to create the pathway that you'd like to get to in order to create the economic freedom that you'd like. But then also being a community member, realizing that there needs to be another way for students that are not second chance offenders, for students that are not remedial, for students that actually just want to have an opportunity at furthering their education, furthering their knowledge, and actually kind of just staying involved in the latest trends and technologies. I think that the trustee, provided we get the opportunity to serve, is an opportunity to create policy that can help that.
Dr. Riley?
Yes. What motivates?
Yes.
As I stated before,
And qualifications.
qualifications, I'm a licensed healthcare professional. I do global work. In addition to, I'm also an entrepreneur. So I mentioned before about having the opportunity of being a resident here, being able to see students in the community. I've volunteered and supported Paula Dunbar over the past couple of years, being able to see how students again are not seeing themselves. When you think about community college and think about the opportunities in which individuals are there due to non-traditional pathways around education, there's so many opportunities here. So based upon my motivation is really a fact of wanting to have positive change, impactful change, particularly for our area. District 7 is so large and there's so many different opportunities in which we can actually benefit and have a better future for the students, and I think that I'm a part of that positive change.
Thank you.
So I believe that right now is a very monumental time for Dallas College and for community colleges in Texas in general. Here in Dallas County, less than 16% of Black and brown young adults are making a living wage in this county. I believe not the whole solution, but a big part of that solution can be Dallas College. If we prioritize those indicators, right, getting people prepared for the workforce, getting people those 2-year degrees, getting them to a 4-year degree, we can do that kind of change. I think we can close those living wage gaps, getting them to get a thriving wage eventually as well. My qualifications, I train school board trustees currently. I work for an organization that we have over 19 school board trustees in Dallas County and in Tarrant County. I know school board governance. I practice it, I live it, I preach it, and now I really want to apply what I know, the expertise that I have about governance. I want to apply that to the Dallas College, the higher ed institutions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dr. O'Reilly, question's yours. All right, this question, we just talked about money, and we understand there are two things that in this particular role is a budget and policy. Budget dictates policy. And with that budget, I understand in terms of money and cost for education, where I have a child at an HBCU, Prairie View, who is siphoning all of my money. So with that being said, how will you ensure the affordability of education how will you ensure the affordability of education while maintaining the financial health of the college?
First and foremost, Dallas College is affordable. It's $72 a credit, and in fact, you get your books included in that. So I think that from a financial perspective, they're doing great. The problem is, in which Joey just mentioned, students are struggling, parents are struggling. It is hard. Cost of living is high, wages are low. I appreciate when people say, oh yes, affordable or living wage. It needs to be above. The living wage needs to be raised. We need to be able to provide good quality education to where people can be thriving. So I have a Thrive plan. That's Keisha O'Reilly, and I'm calling about Thrive plan, which actually addresses that and thinks about these innovative partnerships. It's not about day laborers or labor. Our next generation is important. You look at Dallas County, particularly in my area, District 7, the percentage of young people, the percentage of individuals who are not graduating from high school, it is not even 50% when you think about that. Looking at certain age groups with that. So it's important for us to be able to be committed to that.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Anderson, same question.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. I think that there's a good opportunity to begin to partner with other organizations, other businesses, and begin to merge the education model with the business model. To have project-based learning, but also to fill up the remote spaces of the office buildings and different industries with students doing interns and other gigs that help them get experience. At the same time, this affects the budget by allowing those budget costs for the professors to actually be defrayed through those businesses and actually give those employees at the businesses stipends and things in order to offset the cost of education. But I think that will allow us to have more access to equipment, technology, and know-how that will help us move forward.
Thank you. Rodriguez.
Can I get the question one more time?
Yes. How will you ensure the affordability of education while maintaining the financial health of the college?
Perfect. So yes, as Dr. O'Reilly did say, we're very cheap, $79 per credit hour. So we're already pretty affordable. I see innovative things happening at Austin Community College where they're making it tuition free. We need to start thinking about innovative ways, different ways to bust down some barriers, right? We're in the barrier busting business. So I do think we are affordable, but taking care of some of the other factors that are stopping persistence and completion rates, addressing those, leveraging our P3 partnerships, right? Our P3s, leveraging our relationship with the city, right? How are we entering into interlocal agreements to subsidize housing for our students, so that the burden's not completely on the college. We also have HB8 funding, which is a brand new funding model from the state that is allowing for a little over $500 million a year for us to improve upon certain indicators. Those are the indicators that I base my whole platform on. So if we just improve upon workforce readiness, industry-based certifications, 2-year associate's degrees, and 4-year transfers, we will start to see more money come into the college. Thank you.
All right, thank you, thank you. And I will acknowledge that I made a mistake in terms of asking questions. I asked Ms. Belt, you can take that out of my free budget. And we'll get back in order. All right, so this next question will be for Mr. Rodriguez. This question is, how would you ensure the educational programs offered by Dallas College align with the needs of employers in the region, and what are those needs that are not currently being met, and what is the most advantageous, I would say, economic or program that we need to institute in the college?
I love that. So right now, the college is doing research on, I guess, on audit, if you will, on how we can best leverage our partnerships, not only with corporations, but just in industries where they have high need, high skill, and high pay. So that's what I would really prioritize is, okay, cool, if we're gonna do this partnership, if we're gonna enter this agreement, is it high need, high skill, high pay? No, let's consider a different company, right? There's industries in tech, there's industries in education. Right now we have a 4-year degree. We actually have 2 4-year programs in education and nursing. And I would be completely for expanding those programs, going into maybe a tech or a coding, so that we can also have those 4-year degrees, so that they don't have to go into a different university where they might not complete, right? If they stay here at home, at our home campus, they're more likely to succeed. So I would be completely for that. I think just leveraging, once again, the idea that people are knocking on our doors, right? They're knocking at Dallas College saying, we need students. We need young adults to know this stuff. We need them, and we will pay them. That right now we need to leverage that.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson. Yes. How would you ensure that the educational programs offered by Dallas College align with the needs of employers in the region? What do you see as the biggest need that we're not meeting, and which one is the most successful?
Well, I think we start with asking employers what their needs are. Ask them what their goals are and what the requirements of the students that we then be producing. I think that one of the biggest needs that we need in our area is attracting industry to our communities. And attracting industries will then result in more tax base, more retail, more housing, and a specialized community. I think one opportunity is to invest in things like semiconducting industry. Considering the federal government has a tremendous amount of funding, that's a new area that we're going into. Financial literacy or finance are other areas that I think are important so that we can be good stewards of the future that we're building now as residents.
Thank you. Dr. Riley? Yes. How would you ensure that educational programs offered by Dallas College align with the needs of employers in the region, being what is the most successful and what is the one that has the most need that's not being met?
Well, first of all, I would answer this question is on multi-faceted. One, the enrollment at Dallas College has surpassed what it was during COVID. So we have a lot of students who are in Dallas College. We have a lot of positions right now that the labor force is saying we can't fill. So there's a disconnect there. Students are not, one, possibly interested in what those fields that are open. So the question becomes, well, what are those things that students are interested in? So one, being able to evaluate that. Two, being able to see where is the disconnect between students who are coming into the program and are not completing it. And thinking about how do we support that. So for me as board of trustees for District 7, being able, and I'm speaking into existence, I'm gonna be chair once you guys. That's God. That it's important important because there is a deficit there. So it's not just about them not knowing. They start, something happens, there are positions there, but for whatever reason, the students are not seeking them and completing them.
Thank you. All right, now we've come to the part of the program where we have the audience question, audience participation. We warmed you up with the question and you look like a very intelligent, very informed audience. Shaking your head, yes. Right. And we're encouraging you online. If you have any questions, please submit your questions. They'll bring them to me. So if you're watching online, please ask a question that you may have. So with that being said, we open the floor up to our audience. Come on down. And again, if you have any questions, please step to my right.
My question to all the candidates, when it comes to the different programs that students might be interested in, we focus too much on STEM, but there are students that are not interested in STEM. And maybe I'm telling you from my experience, I had a horrible STEM experience. It wasn't taught right, especially in the ISD. So how can you ensure that we focus on other programs besides STEM to get students interested and actually graduate from the Dallas College system?
All right. Thank you for the question. First, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. Well, initially, the programs are kind of focused on STEM because that's where a lot of federal funding comes from. And so they align them and then put students in those programs so that you can receive the general revenue funds that then help the college run. Other programs are of more interest. It's just that the student population needs to be more interested and be more vocal in those particular areas. The areas of the arts, I mean, for instance, I'm an architect, and architecture, for some reason, is not considered in STEM. Otherwise, it would be considered STEAM. But this is an entire industry that's often left out, and that's not the only one. There's several industries that are left out, but we as architects are very vocal about the role and continuing and reaching out to the future architects of the area in order to help them get where they want to be.
Thank you. Thank you. Rodriguez.
So you mentioned something really interesting, and it's that I think we could all agree that if you're deciding maybe what you want to do by the time you are already in college, it might be already too late, right? And so you had said something that Dallas ISD did poorly for you was the STEM, not only opportunities, but the education, right? So I'm glad to say that I do have endorsements from Dallas ISD trustees as well as DeSoto ISD trustees. That matters to me because I want to make sure that I am somewhat of a liaison between the two institutions to make sure that there are two institutions that are sharing responsibility and accountability for that one student, right? And so if we catch them early, like Dallas ISD, right, is really, and any ISD we partner with, right? We partner with Richardson ISD as well, and Grand Prairie, Garland as well. Sorry, I didn't need to take all the partnerships. But the idea here is that how can we best use that relationship with them to make sure that we are giving students a menu of options earlier, maybe even in middle school, elementary school, and that is already actually a new plan that's happening at Dallas ISD, so I'm really glad to be working with them.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Next question.
Wait.
Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Repeat the question.
Oh, okay. Oh, you don't have to, if I can answer it for you.
I just wanted me to read it.
Couple of things I want to say. We have to think about HBA, right? You have to be able to appreciate what the college is actually trying to do. If they're trying to increase the workforce, we have to take a hard look at ourselves and be able to say, well, what are our priorities? I was in the orchestra in middle school and high school. I love the music, but thinking about the ROI, the rate of return of investment, those are the questions that we're going to have to ask. And I don't have the answer, but I do think that it's something that's important to be able to evaluate and to look at and be able to see what is it that we're going to have in terms of the trade-offs. If it's the arts, what does that look like in terms of the arts? And I love what Jasmine brought up about architecture. That is art, but that's also science. It's also math. So being able to have those trade-offs to where, you know what, state dollars may give us this, but this is where we can have these creative partnerships and be able to bring those back around so that students can truly use Dallas College as the tool that they need for themselves, to invest in themselves and then come back and invest in the community. To me, that's the best way of doing that. So thank you for the question.
Thank you.
My question is this: how can y'all increase the class flow or the class population? For example, I'm a healthcare provider. I got my nursing through El Centro years ago. And one thing about it though, a lot of kids today come to the hospital I work at, I train, but they come from Concord, which charge them $6,000, and they ain't gonna make but $20,000 a year, and they gotta pay all that money back. El Centro, that same program for nursing might cost $8,000 for the whole program. But they can't get into the program because there's a waiting list. They gotta do this, they gotta do that. They sit on this waiting list for 3 years. How can you increase it to where they don't have to wait so long to get started?
All right, we'll begin with Ms. Rodriguez.
So the way that I see a lot of things get done at the governance level, right? Things that a trustee can actually influence. It's about making some of these issues visible, right? And by making it visible, I'm talking, how do we institutionalize the network to care about that issue, right? And so one of the first things that I really want to do is adopt a set of kind of network goals and guardrails, some of the things that we value, where we can actually measure things like, hey, how long are people waiting to get into this program, right? I guarantee you right now that's not something they're talking about at board meetings. Right? But if we don't get to make that issue visible through adopting guardrails, by adopting values that we actually care about, then no one's ever going to talk about it, right? Another thing that I really want to say is, because when you start to institutionalize that and prioritize that, the network now has to make adjustments. That's the beautiful part about this, right? Is now we say we're measuring this and we want to close wait times, stop wait time, right? Now they have to expand the programs.
Thank you. James?
Thank you. I think a potential answer is kind of connecting what I call the interweb. Dallas College has colleges all around the city within 20 minutes of one another, but there are no touch points on the inside that connect where the population is and the city is. I spoke with Dr. Seabrooks, president over at Cedar Valley, one time about a concept that I call, this is just conversation, shade tree. And what it is a partnership with the college, with potential Dallas, the city of Dallas, that allows for a facility to be created that can be leased or rented by signing up to your common mechanic or whatever trade that is. And it exposes them, allows them to have all of the equipment so that they can be exposed to it, learn to use it, become interested in it, and then have the opportunity to pitch to those people stackable credentials that help them get to where they want to get in their educational attainment. But those touch points are meant to gather the people who typically don't come to the campus.
Thank you. Dr. Riley?
This is where I get to say my plug. As a licensed healthcare professional pharmacist, I totally appreciate your perspective. And I would say the wait list at your particular institution has to do with the capacity. You have where you have more interest and less capacity. So being able to see where else can these students go to be able to be educated. There is such a strong need, particularly now that Dallas College has a 4-year nursing program, right? Everybody and their mother and grandmother is going to want to be in the program. So how are you able to evaluate that? There are empty places to be used. There are wonderful, amazing strategies that we can talk about in terms of partnerships, relationships, maximizing those entities that are here, Baylor, Parkland, all of those other places that can take our students. They can be able to support our students, and I think that's very important to do. In addition to that, being able to see how in which engaging in the community itself, I'm really about being part of my platform, Thrive Plan. Health is wealth. If you are not healthy, you can't keep a job or get a job. So all of that is connected.
All right, this question comes from our audience online. See if I can rephrase it. What South Dallas specifically South Dallas based organizations are you working with, and what programs are you working with them? Okay, so we'll begin with Mr. Anderson, specifically South Dallas. not Southern Dallas, but South Dallas.
Sunny South Dallas.
There we go.
Well, so I am a board member with Southern Dallas Progress, Community Development Corporation, that currently opening up a facility, here with Vista Bank that'll provide access to, both financial literacy and also, meeting spaces for small business and economic development. Now, I'm the board member with Southern Dallas Progress, so this is not something that I've been involved with, but I'm proud to be a part of that. Being a graduate of Lincoln High School, I'm involved with the Alumni Association. And also I'm a community member here, involved with St. Philip's and Kingdom Legacy Company that's right here on Martin Luther King. We just renovated their building so that they can provide services to the community, and also the old Dallas Weekly building. We're in the midst of renovating it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Keisha.
As a resident of South Dallas, I'm doing a number of things. When I think about organizations, I myself have started a nonprofit where I'm focused on looking at housing. We have negative equity. I'm on Pine Street, renovating, thinking about how do I settle the situation between gentrification and thinking about those communities and individuals who are there and losing their homes. Along with being able to reach, I've done research, am doing research in HIV. That is my passion, my specialty, HIV and prevention and treatment. So really looking at how do we prevent HIV in women, particularly transgender and Black cisgender women in the Dallas area. So those are two, I guess, opportunities that I can say that I've actually done and currently are doing in South Dallas. In addition to, I'm working on a research, a real estate project on Park Row. So being able to look at how, again, balancing new construction with the current integrity of the community is something that I'm really struggling with as well. So from a community perspective, being able to share and show, again.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez.
Yeah, South Dallas. I stay right behind Lincoln High School myself. Yeah, so y'all can find me there if y'all aren't happy with me. Just knock on my door. But Bonton Farms is a place that I frequent often. Absolutely love donating to them and supporting their work, as well as After Eight to Educate, who takes care of it's an after-school program, especially for students who are a little bit more vulnerable in terms of being unhoused. And so I volunteer there as well as donate as well some of my resources there. And some of my clothes as well, because they actually do have an overnight shelter as well in South Dallas. I also did start my own nonprofit as well that helps students, first generation students specifically, with obtaining their 4-year degree. And that's for first gen students, and that is available to Lincoln and Madison and any South Dallas high school. And yeah, I think that's about it.
Thank you, thank you. All right, now we have a question from the audience.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for taking upon yourself to run for this particular office. When you run for office, you really put yourself out there. So I want to thank you first and foremost for that. My question is, as a former Dallas College employee, one of the challenges that we had was in terms of transition. A lot of students that were coming out of the high school, we were trying give those students and get them enrolled, and some of those students are students that were not graduating from high school but in alternative schools. One of the challenges is the process from when they begin the application to them actually enrolling. What would you do in order to make that process a smooth process and to help those students to feel welcome as they're going through that process so they don't quit? It's a lot of paperwork as well. So that's my question.
All right, thank you for the question, Dr. Riley.
Well, the first thing I would do would be to streamline the process. It's the paperwork. And it also has to do with the individuals at Dallas County, be it the administrators or whoever's facilitating it. I've heard that they say that education is not in the social service business, but we're in the social service business now, particularly when you think about non-traditional students, the students that you mentioned, particularly for those who have not even finished high school and are still trying their best to do something to better themselves. So by being on the board, that's something that I would ask. Again, the board is responsible for governance, making sure that we are adherent to policies and procedures, but also having an opportunity to be able to evaluate and audit and say, how can we streamline this? We don't need bureaucracy. We don't have time for it. Our next generation is counting on us to do something. And we're thinking about, again, I want to have better wages. You can't get better wages when people are bogged down in paperwork. They already have too many barriers and struggles now. So being able to eliminate some of those obstacles is so important. And as again, vote number 4 on the ballot, and I will be able to help with that.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Rodriguez?
So this is one of those kind of beautiful instances where I do feel like leveraging our partnerships specifically with community-based organizations can make a big impact. There are a ton of great organizations doing amazing work throughout the entire Metroplex. And the more that we actually start to partner with them, especially when it comes to helping our students who are kind of slipping through the cracks, right? Those who aren't maybe being visible to the ASPs or your, EIFs, which are your college access providers, right? I feel like that's a big role they can play. I also feel like, once again, making sure that we are in partnership with the ISDs and making sure with, their organizations like Dallas County Promise, right? That their goal is to get 100% of students, right, enrolled and or filled out at FAFSA. So it's about making sure that we have a shared responsibility and accountability, not only with the nonprofits in the city, the community leaders in the city, but once again, also the ISDs that our students are coming from, including the alt programs as well.
Thank you. Amy Chambers.
Thank you. I think one of the keys could be meeting the students where they are, and exposing them to what you are, participating with the students, and giving them something that they can look forward to. When I worked with Dallas College and doing the master plans in each one of the communities, the looks that we saw when the communities came in were all akin to, how did you get up there? How did you get in that position? You're running the master plans, but when we then engaged with those same students, it gave them hope, it gave them future, it gave them exposure. And I think the exposure is key in any and all instances that then will attract students and help them stay in the classroom and stay the course. But mentorship, I think, is the underlying factor that's required so that people know where they're going and they have someone to talk to when they run into those dead ends. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so we understand that as a trustee that you are about the kids, focus on the kids, that's great. But it's just more than the kids that make up college. So this is one of the questions that came from the audience. How will you focus on the faculty? What plans do you have to make sure the faculty thrive and are successful? So we'll begin with Ms. Rodriguez.
So this is I got 2 answers for this. The first one is I want to be a little bit more innovative about the way that we pay our faculty. If you are somebody who is very, 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 very effective on your campus and you are getting students to completion, right? You're making sure that they are attaining their degree and getting a job. I want you to get paid more, right? If you are on the flip side ineffective and just there for the paycheck in the same way that the ISDs have found a way to incentivize their best teachers, I believe we should do that at Dallas College as well, and there's funding for that. The second part is to take care of faculty. I really want to make sure that we actually start to take their surveys that they're taking into consideration, using that data to back up some decision making. Currently, we don't have really anything to show for the fact that if professors are leaving or they're not happy, they're not satisfied, or anybody who works for the university or the college, that there's nothing really happening or no proof that there's anything happening because of that information.
Thank you. James.
Thank you. Back in 2008, I was awarded tenure at Southern University School of Architecture in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And at that time, I was 28 years old. I thought that it was the greatest thing that I could have achieved at that time. And one of the things that attracted me and that I always remembered was the college gave me support. When I came in, they asked me, okay, young professor, what is it that you want to specialize in? And then they sent me to training for 3D modeling, environmental, real estate development, all of the things that I, of course, would have to teach. But the support that comes from the college's administration and the budget that allows them to begin to strive is important. Also, I'd like to open up the conversation about tenure, even at this level. Tenure is that helps the creative process. It also helps faculty to continue to move and strive forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
So when I think about supporting faculty, I think about two aspects of it. One, what is the support that the faculty needs? And the second aspect are what are those challenges that are preventing any institution from helping and assisting the faculty? Currently, right now, in the 2023-2024 strategic plan that the Board of Trustees for Dallas College talks about the importance of the strive for to support the faculty. So as someone coming in new, I want to know, what does that look like? Where are we falling short? Because that is part of what they're currently supposed to be focused on. And so if faculty are not feeling supported, if they're not getting what they need, it's a conversation that needs to happen. Because if you don't have good, qualified, and faculty who are dedicated to the students are not going to feel welcome. And it's going to be even more harder, again, to get these students through. We want them to be successful. We want them to complete. And now with that HB, the House Bill 8 is even more important.
Thank you. All right, since we're holding individuals accountable, and thank you, we're holding individuals accountable, I just want to say one thing. Excellent job of speaking to the audience. You are doing a wonderful job when you answer your questions and not looking at me. You are doing a great job looking at the audience and the camera, so I want to thank you for that. So keeping in light of holding individuals accountable, how would you approach the evaluation, or what is your evaluation process for evaluating the Dallas College Chancellor's performance with student and teacher retention? And that begins with Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. I think, again, Chancellor's performance ties back to how much exposure he's giving to the students, the administration, the community, the faculty, and what kind of role he or she plays in this case, of course, in that matter. In supporting the faculty and supporting the administration, they have set policies that are forward-leaning, but also ambidextrous, that begin to help move the different elements of education through administration and through, of course, the faculty, to begin to move those things forward in a cognitive way. And the cognitive way is really talking to the faculty, talking to the administration, and beginning to lead as leaders do, and begin to really put forward your best foot forward in the community that then begins to reflect those same values.
Thank you. All right. Dr. Riley.
So in terms of the Chancellor, I think it's important from a faculty perspective that there's open door. The Board of Trustees should have an opportunity to meet with the faculty, to really be able to see what are those things. You have to think about the information that the Board of Trustees are receiving, and being able to see, well, is this jaded? Is this biased? Being able to have an open door to where you can sit down with the faculty and be able to determine, well, what are those things that are lacking? What are those things that are working that the Chancellor is ultimately responsible for? So that's one aspect of that. And then from the student perspective, I would like to do the same, to be able to sit, listen, and then to share back with the Chancellor. So that way it's open door policy, being able to hear from the students, and then being able to receive that information and decide what we're gonna do with it. And by doing so, we can make sure that our Chancellor is working to the best ability for him or her as it relates to the students and the faculty.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez.
First, we need to create very clear and objective metrics, right, to hold the chancellor accountable. Every year, a committee will get together and retool the superintendent, the chancellor's evaluation. And so it is in that committee, and if I am elected and in that committee, I will make sure that we have clear measures that define what we mean by student success and by faculty success, right? What are the numbers that we're trying to get to? That way we're not arguing about everyone's definition. We actually have a very clear understanding that we were supposed to get students from 30% to 60% by this year, and Chancellor, you didn't do it, right? And we can't do that unless it's tied to the chancellor's evaluation that we then hold them accountable to every year. Because I know one thing, if you don't want your money to look funny, and I know that Justin is one of those people that wants to do the right thing and at the same time needs a board that can also support him in doing that. And once again, that's going to happen in that evaluation review, and with that evaluation tool, we have to align those metrics to his pay.
All right, thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you to the candidates for taking your time and running for this office. And we've come to that part of the program where we're giving our 2-minute closing remarks. And this is your opportunity to make your last pitch. Hopefully something was said that will, to the audience here and online, that will connect with your particular candidacy. So with that, we'll begin first with Dr. O'Reilly. 2 minutes.
It's been a pleasure. What I will say is, in terms of what I'm here for, I'm here to serve. I'm here to represent District 7. We have one voice. District 7 has one voice on the board of trustees. And I ask that you would have your confidence in me. I represent innovation. I represent collaboration. It's one thing for you to be an educator. That is so important. But we're dealing in different times now, times in which we have to get things right and what is important for our students, what is important for our community, what is important for our region, and I'm gonna even say what's important for our world. No one has talked about and mentioned global. No one's talked and mentioned about the importance of green energy. South Dallas is where I am. South Dallas is where I thrive. In South Dallas, there's so many other opportunities and aspects that I feel that Dallas College has an opportunity to support with great and amazing innovative partnerships, with great and amazing programs for our students. I love the fact of being able to say, yes, we have strategies, yes, we have benchmarks, and of course, we know that data is just data. It's what is behind that data. It's one thing, and I'm so proud that Dallas College went from 7 different schools to 1. But even with that, there's still differences within each district. And it's important for District 7 to know and understand that whoever, I want it to be me, but whoever that they do decide to select for this position understands the community, can appreciate what that means in terms of the deficits that we have, but the beautiful and the God-given opportunity that we have to improve. Because we have one community, and that's all that we have. And we have to stick together and make sure that we're doing the best for our community, for our future, and ultimately for this world.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you guys once again for being here and being informed, being actively engaged. I think we could all agree, I mean, it's amazing to have a pool of candidates like this in general, right? What a blessing that we get to decide between 3 really great candidates, right? The other thing I want to say is I'm not supposed to be here. Statistically, I'm not supposed to be here, right? I'm first gen. All my cousins are in jail, killed, or just living, homeless, drug addicts. And here's the thing about the potential I see in education, and specifically in higher ed, is because I've seen what my life is. All right, I know what I came out to be and the access and opportunities that I have now. To know that we can do that for more people, and we're not right now, that's the part that crushes me every day. And so to know that we all care, right? Everybody on this stage does care enough to want to do something about that. I think we have the opportunity right now to change the phrase that we've all accepted, the phrase that college isn't for everyone. I think we've all said it at one time and didn't know how loaded that phrase was. Because if we're being honest with ourselves, who are we talking about when we say college isn't for everyone? Are we talking about the affluent kids over there in Highland Park? Let's be honest with ourselves. But now Dallas College is saying, actually, what do you want to do? You want to do a 6-9 month certification program where you can come out making $60,000 to $90,000 a year at the age of 20 years old? Life-changing. When I come from a household, right, where my parents didn't even make 30 grand cumulatively in the household. That changes somebody's life, right? And so when we think about the narrative, right, that we were able to shift, that college actually can be for everyone, right? That's one thing I've been saying is actually, you want a 4-year degree? Guess what? Dallas College does that now too. 4-year degrees in 2 different topics, right? Education and nursing. I love that we are now living in a time where we are prioritizing the community college, right? And that we right now can change the phrase. Actually, Dallas College can be for everyone It's just up to you. The ball's in your court. Appreciate y'all. Thank you, guys.
All right, give it up for our candidates. No, I'm sorry. My bad. Oh, you want? Yes,
Well, so Dallas College has the opportunity to be catalytic. The communities that we're serving is situated in the last developable parcels of land in the city. Also, the colleges are on average 220 acres of land. But what creates a sustainable community? School, banking, healthcare, food, grocery stores. Dallas College has the opportunity to bring industry to the communities. That's what good colleges do, bring research, bring other entities come in and change the narrative for entire communities. Through public-private partnerships, it opens up a tremendous amount of potential. And using what we call OPM, other people's money, in order to leverage our public investment with private investment to receive 10 times more than what we could have done. It takes a creative approach. It takes an understanding of policy and finance and bonds. It takes a care for the community that I have, being a resident of the district and a long-term resident of Dallas, that has taken every stride that I can to go out and prepare myself for this moment, to come back and to be effective for the communities that have helped me so much. And I'd appreciate if you guys were to vote for me. I do my very, very best to help achieve the goals that you guys would set for me, as well as my own goals, and then to create aspirational goals for the future. So I'm asking you guys for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sure that everybody like me was thinking OPP, other people's platform. Yeah, I know. Okay, there we go. All right, give it up for our candidates. Thank you. We have our Dallas ISD trustee District 9 candidates.
I'll see you Saturday, right?
We asked all 4 candidates to show up. So as I call out your name, please make your way to the stage. Edward Turner, Valeria Alonso, Lakeisha Wallace, and Dion Chapman. Again, just remind the candidates, I know you slept since then a couple of times. You blinked hard. Just remind you that we'll begin with a 2-minute opening. Then you'll have followed by a 1-minute question period, and then we'll finish up with a 2-minute closing. Okay? All right. So it has been said that children are our future. Let them lead the way. But with them leading the way, we must have effective leadership to help them guide them in their directions. So what we have before you are 3 of the 4 candidates running for Dallas ISD Trustee District 9. With that, we'll begin with your 2-minute opening. Mr. Turner. All right, please, as you are answering your questions, again, the audience here and online would love to see your beautiful smiling face. And I'm sure that your social media team would love to be able to capture you on video so that you can use it in your promotion. So please speak to your audience and speak to the online audience as well. Thank you.
All right. Good evening. Thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to talk today. My name is Edward Turner. I am a candidate for school board trustee. And the reason I'm running for school board is because I've made it my life's mission to increase the educational outcomes in the neighborhoods in which I grew up in, particularly South Dallas. I am a product of the ISD. I graduated from the great James Madison High School. I was the first in my family to go to college where I earned my bachelor's degree in finance. I also earned my master's degree in international business. And while I do have a master's degree in international business, education is so critical to me because within my own family, both of my younger sisters are high school dropouts. And I see the impact that's happening in their lives. I see the impact that's going on in my lives. And I've done a lot of work in the ISD to make sure that we bring teachers, parents, and community stakeholders to do what's in the best interest of children. I want to continue to do the work that current trustee Henry has done when it comes to bringing equity to our school districts. I want to focus on my priorities in this race is first student safety. I want to make sure that when I send my kid to school, that I'm able to pick my kid up from school. I want to make sure that we expand early pre-K 3, pre-K 4, college and career readiness, but also understanding that we need to increase our job and trade programs for jobs that's going to prepare our students that are going to get jobs that's above a livable wage. Support our teachers, supporting our staff support on the campuses, and more importantly, engage in the community. I am an advocate for community engagement, and I want to continue to engage the community on what issues that we're facing in DISD. I'm asking for your support. I'm asking you to vote for me on May 4th. May the 4th be with you. To vote for me and support for me because I'm always going to do what's in the best interest of kids. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Wallace?
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for having me tonight. My name is Lakeisha Wallace. I'm also a graduate of the great James Madison High School, the class of 1987, that is. I've been in this community forever. I've been an advocate, a parent advocate, and a student advocate for over 30 years. My connection to the community, I went to Madison, my children went to Skyline. I also was a part of the Turning 12 program at Lincoln High School, but most of my years have been at Skyline. Most of my years have been at Billy E. Day. I've been in these trenches for a long time. I may not be very popular with a lot of people in the district or the community, but I've been doing the hard work. I've been laying the groundwork for a long time. I consider myself as being a trustee for quite a while. I get phone calls late in the night saying, Ms. Wallace, how do I do it? What do I do? What policy? I've been doing this for a very long time. I didn't get a paycheck for it, haven't got one yet, but I still wake up, go, and be involved wherever I'm asked to go. I also have 4 children, of which I stated are also within the district, graduated from Skyline. But listen, they all have degrees, all except one. He's making up his mind right now at Sam Houston University what he is going to get his degree in. I have 3 professionals. One is a professional football player. The other is also a coach at Skyline. He returned back to his community, and my daughter is a doula. I am a degree individual from the University of Houston. I am invested in this community. I'm very much so invested in this district. I advocate for parents who can't speak for themselves. I advocate for children who can't speak for themselves. I am who you need in this district. I'm not afraid to stand up. I'm not afraid to ask tough questions, and I'm not afraid to represent this district. Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Mr. Chapman?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dayon Boulanger Chapman, and I want to thank you for giving me the time to speak in front of you. I am also a resident here in Dallas. I grew up here. I went to Booker T. Washington, is where I graduated from. And then I went off to start teaching. I've been teaching for the past 12 years. This is my life's work. This is not a hobby for me. This is what I aspire to do because I know that one day we won't be here. And I hope that the work that I have done will ripple way past when I'm not here. And so that's part of the reason why I'm in front of you today. Education is something that is so important to all of us. It touches everybody's lives. And so that's something that when you choose me, you choose a proponent, someone who is a proponent for education lifelong, not just from elementary to secondary through our post-secondary school, but lifelong until we're gone. We need to learn. And so that's something I take very seriously. As far as platform priorities, being a teacher, I have an inside track to what we do because I do it every single day. And to me, it makes a lot of sense to put someone who has that practical expertise on the board making decisions for our education. Put the educator in the education spot. It makes sense to me. And so when I look at those things, those are part of the reasons why I run. We got to make sure that our kids feel safe in our schools, that our teachers feel safe in our schools. They shouldn't have to take a pill to get out and get the courage to go into their workplace or to go and do their school studies. We got to fix this. And so, because I live this every day, I have insight on how we can fix that, how we can do policy to make sure that our kids and children are getting the best out of the 8 hours they spend on our campuses. So, we'll talk more about policy, but what you need to know is that when you vote for me, you vote for an educator, and an educator has all the education in the world, but it doesn't matter if we're not putting it in the right, if we're not using it effectively. And so I implore you, put the educator at the highest legislative body in Dallas so that we can make sure education stays the priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I love this group because you all pretty much answered the first question I normally would ask. So either y'all were watching or you're just as smart. So we'll go with that then. We'll go with you are just as smart. All right. So let me ask this question then. Can you describe a recent policy change implemented by the board that you agreed with and one that you disagreed with? So we'll begin with Ms. Wallace.
A recent policy change that I agree with or disagree with. Well, let me go back with, I was, a couple of years ago, parents and myself got together because we were having issues with the code of conduct. And the code of conduct at this particular time was actually expelling children at a very early age. We're talking pre-K through 3rd grade. So what we decided, and let me back up a moment. My degree is in criminal justice. I was a PO in Harris County when I received my degree from the University of Houston, and I worked at Harris County in addition to coming here to Dallas. And what I started to see on my caseload was students who were becoming younger and younger, even in adult probation. So we were advocating to change the policy on code of conduct for suspending children at an early age. I think building relationships with children and parents and finding out the root to what's actually going on instead of dismissing and removing them from a classroom is most vital.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
There are a couple policies that I feel good about and that I don't feel good about. The first I want to start with that I don't feel the best about, and it's a controversial policy, but our TEI program, that's something that we specifically can look at in our district. That the board has all the power in the world when we look at policy as far as TEI and how we incentivize our teachers. And let's be real, we can have all the interventions in the world, we have the best software, the best tools, the best facilities. If we don't have a teacher in that room, what's going to happen? So that's one spot where I feel like we must take especially good credence on making sure teachers are well taken care of because they are the caretakers of our babies. On top of that, we've got to make sure when we talk about drugs, administrators are not hand-shackled with policy that does not allow them to appropriately dole out consequences or redirection that is effective on their campus. We should not be worried about statistics and data numbers when we're dealing with discipline about drugs. It's dirty all the way around. We just got to make sure we address it in a way that's equitable.
As a community organizer, when I came into this work in organizing parents, I advocated and organized other parents and other stakeholders to advocate behind a discipline policy because we realized our babies were being suspended at an early age. So by working with the current trustees, I looked up the data, I did the research, and brought it to the district and said, listen, you are disproportionately suspending younger kids, which is leading to the school to prison pipeline. From my work in organizing parents, a discipline policy came about. Now we have kids in the classroom. We have not only just keeping them in the classroom, but also teaching kids the positive behavior interventions where kids are learning about conflict resolution, how to deal with their issues, how to tackle their problems, and keep the kids in the classroom so they can learn from their mistakes. That's more of a proactive approach. And once I become trustee, I want to continue to look at whatever policies that are creating barriers for our kids, for our teachers, and change those policies to do what's in the best interest of kids, as well as the ones who are teaching and supporting our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. As we get closer to the questions from the audience, I ask our members online, audience members online, if you have any questions, please submit your questions as we will ask our candidates here on stage, as well as our audience members are warming up to ask questions. I'll shake the head. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right. So before that, I have one more question I want to ask. As a trustee, what strategies does the board employ to mitigate the impact of budget cuts on the educational outcomes? We know that the state of Texas does not want to fund public education. So what strategies as a board member would you employ to mitigate those impact on budget cuts and reduction of teachers and school closure? So we'll begin with Mr. Chapman.
Working inside of the schools for so long, you start to see the ins and outs of how policy affects the classroom. And so, to that end, My strategy would be much in line with our current superintendent, and we're thinking that it's very smart to look at taking away redundancies. Things that are produced across the district where we can consolidate. What I mean is if we're offering a class at 7 campuses that have low enrollment, why don't we consolidate that down to 1 or 2 campuses with some busing? That's one spot. Also, looking at redundancies in in our jobs. We have positions that are not filled right now, and that's counting across our books. Well, let's go ahead and just eliminate those positions because they're not filled anyway, siphon those responsibilities to another spot, and then that way we don't have to worry about cutting someone else's job because there's no job there anyway. We're just, we're being smart about our allocations. And so those are 2 simple-ish ways that we can look at practically cutting the budget without cutting people.
Thank you. Mr. Turner.
The fact of the matter is, the state of Texas is doing not a good job at all in funding education. And with DISD, we know that there's going to be nearly a $30 million shortfall. So we have to start looking at outside resources from philanthropy to grants, federal dollars to come in and fill the gaps. Also, we do not need to move any dollars from the classroom. We want to keep all our dollars on the school. We need to look at maybe what's going on, cut some fat there in the middle, a lot of high-paid positions that are being filled, that we need to cut the budget over there. But what we do not need to do is cut funding on who the ones that touch our babies. And not, I said it like that, but the ones who are in the classroom that are educating our kids, those budgets do not need to be cut whatsoever. So once I'm trustee, I'm going to advocate for making sure we fund our schools equitably and that we cut the fat where the fat needs to be cut and that we go find outside resources to come in and fill the gaps where we need to fill the gaps.
Thank you. Wallace.
Personally, I've always thought the district was a little top-heavy. No pun intended. I think we do need to look at those positions that we have at the top, and then I think we need to use our resources that we have, such as real estate. If we have land, if we have property, instead of looking at it as a shortfall, how can we increase our income? How can we increase our funding so we can support our own schools? In addition to that, what about bringing in outside sources? Sports is a multi-trillion-dollar business. Why aren't we utilizing our sporting facilities? Renting them out, making them available, utilizing them in a way they can make a profit for us. We need to look at alternative sources for income. Don't look at it as a glass being half full. Look at it in a different direction. Let's bring in money, even if we know we're going to have a loss. We can still make more money to cover our expenses. And if we're going to be losing teachers, I understand we're slated to lose about 113 teachers, 75 plus APs. We need to look at that.
All right, so we'll open up this time for questions from the audience. Please, if you would, make your way to my right. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. All right. Open mic night.
Thank you. So my name is Jasmine Anderson, and I've got 2 questions. One of them related to Dallas College and Early College High School. There's been tremendous effort in aligning those programs with all of the schools. However, to my understanding, the completion rate has not been what we wanted it to be. Are there efforts that you can share with us that you would employ, provided you are afforded the opportunity as a trustee, that would help mitigate that? Secondly, is well, that's the question.
Everybody understand the question? Yes. All right. We'll start with Mr. Turner.
So, but you're absolutely correct, right? We do have our P-TECH programs in partnership with Dallas College, and we need to expand that. But what DISD is not doing a good job of is marketing our programs all the way down to the elementary level, to the middle school, to the elementary level, so they can know that these programs exist. And not only just the P-TECH programs, but the trade programs. Dallas College has a lot of opportunities that they can provide for our residents here in Dallas, right? And plus, if we keep our kids in Dallas College, that keeps our talent right here in Dallas, and that increases our revenue right here in Dallas with the talent that we have in Dallas. So we have to do a job in marketing and promoting our P-TECH programs, our TTE programs, all the way down to the elementary level so they can know that these programs exist and they can have a vision for seeing that I could one day be in this position and have a job that pays an above a livable wage and I don't have to go out and sell drugs.
Thank you. Ms. Wallace.
From a personal perspective, my son attended a P-TECH program. On the college side, he was great. On the comprehensive side, he was missing credits, not due to graduate. So he would have received a college degree, but not a high school diploma. So I don't think we need to look at marketing. We need to go back and evaluate the processes of it being implemented properly. I am a product of El Centro Community College. I left high school, James Madison, and went into El Centro. Greatest thing ever happened to me. And if we can get kids to sign up for Texas Promise, so let's take it one step further and offer them free funding to go to school, which they do through Texas Promise, but let's see what we can do to mitigate why they don't continue after that. That's very important. What happens from the beginning to the end? Unlike a lot of our kids that don't graduate, they start school but don't end school. We need to look, let's just roll it back, take a different approach, and look at what is the actual problem that they can't complete this process of education that we're in the business of.
Thank you. Mr. Chapman.
Again, having a classroom perspective puts me at an advantage. I will disagree with my first opponent in that I don't believe it's about marketing. I believe it's about discernment. Your question was, how do we get these students to completion? And the problem that we're having in a lot of our ISCs who work with the Dallas County Promise, Garland included, is that we're very excited about putting everybody in this program. And we don't guard that not everybody is ready for the program at that time. And so we end up inadvertently pushing students through a program that they almost make it, then they are expected to do things where they can't complete on their own because they're not ready. And so my answer is discernment. We've got to make sure that the metrics around who we invite into those programs are honoring what those students can actually do, not just to get as many people in for money. We've got to make sure that this is about the kids, not about the money, because then they won't be successful. And then they'll go on to a college program where they think they have the ability to do it, and then they drop out because they find that they weren't. And so we've got to protect them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony, and my question is regarding student safety in the schools. So since the rise of social media and how easily accessible it has become for the majority of children in schools, what are some of your plans into addressing cyberbullying and bullying in general in DISD schools, considering there have been reported cases recently of principals not doing enough to address these issues?
All right, anybody answer the question? All right. Ms. Wallace.
As a parent advocate, ding, 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 ding. This is me right here. This is what we've dealt with in our schools and in our communities for quite a while now. I pulled my emails last night. I've been at school board meetings for the last 15 years talking about safety and well-being of our students. This is a major issue, not just at Wilma Hutch. We all know what happened this weekend. A kid, dad said it perfectly, clear backpack, wands, the metal detectors, supervisors, you name it, security and police, but what happened? Until we learn how to address these students in a way and meet them where they are, you said it earlier, we have to get down to where these kids understand conflict resolution. How can I resolve my issue with you without pulling out a gun, having to think that that's the best way to solve it by shooting or trying to cause harm to you? 48% of our kids that go to school are afraid to go into a building. They are scared. They are afraid. That is according to the survey that was received by the district.
Thank you. Mr. Chapman.
So when we address this issue, the first thing I want to say is that we've got to address it from a student emotional learning approach. We've got to address their social and emotional learning because this is a social issue. And so as teachers and administrators, our job is going to be making sure we rally around those students to show them that you need to have a support system. When you're not in your home space, you've got to have a support system that helps you operate in society. That's the first part of engaging their social emotional learning. And then we've got to show our students and our community that we're connected. These issues don't just stop when the kids enter the front door of the school or when they leave and go home. We've got to show that these things cross paths and we are there with them, whether it's at home or at school, to be their support system, to get them through these social issues that are very real. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Turner?
Yeah, as you see, my number one priority is student safety, because as we all know, kids can be mean, right? My daughter has dealt with bullying and she's 13 years old. But also we have to think about that the school can only do so much. This starts at home. We have to keep in mind that these kids that are bringing these guns to school, they're watching this on cell phones, they're watching the music videos, and every time you see a rap video, what do you see? They're talking about killing one another. And these kids have this same mindset that they bring to school. And the teachers, yes, we try to focus on social, emotional learning, but we have to also go into partnership and let these families know nobody wants their kid buried. Nobody wants their kid to go to a funeral. So they need to understand what are the real consequences behind their action, because you better believe that there's a system designed to put them in prison if they continue this behavior. So we have to educate not only these kids what's the consequences, but we have to let these parents know what are the real consequences when your child decides to be a bully. And you as a parent, if you're teaching your child bully behavior, you too will go to jail. You see what just happened up north.
Thank you.
This thing on fire tonight. As a group born and raised in South Dallas, I have a two-part question. My first question is how long you been living in District 9? And two, who are some of the folks that you've been working with in the last 4 years in District 9? Not just South Dallas, but across the district, in District 9 in particular, community partners in District 9.
Thank you. Anybody understand the question?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Chapman?
Well, this question puts me at a slight disadvantage. I am the newest candidate to District 9. I moved here just 2 years ago from District 13, Dallas District 13, which is where I had my roots. And so to answer your question, in the short time that I've been here, my network is vast. Just because I didn't live in this district doesn't mean I'm not a part of Dallas. I serve as, I'm obviously a teacher, which gets me connected, but I have a big connection with the Dallas Symphony Chorus, and I also have a connection with our other teacher groups in Dallas. And so what's important here is that when we look at community connection, it's not about just organizing, it's about the everyday, day-to-day. And so that's something that I've been a part of since I started, since I graduated, because this place means everything to me. This is where I live. And so I guess my short answer is every single day that I moved here, that's what my connection is being, that's what my work is being doing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Turner.
I grew up right here in the heart of South Dallas. I still live in the heart of South Dallas. I live right on the same street which I was born and grew up on. I've been involved. I've been on Days SBDM. I've been on Burleson SBDM. I'm the only candidate in this race that over the last decade that have brought nearly $1 million of resources to campuses that are struggling by bringing in resource partners that provided free services for students, for parents, for teachers. I work with various organizations. I was the co-chair of our community, our schools, that defeated the privatization of DISD, where I organized parents, teachers, and community stakeholders. I'm still working with various nonprofit organizations that's mentoring students at DISD, over 10 different campuses in DISD. So I've been here, I've been doing the work, I'm about doing the work. I don't need to be a school board trustee to do the work, okay? I'm gonna do the work whether I win or whether I lose. But winning this race will put me at a different level where I can do more.
Numerous schools within the district. My expertise is building relationships with families. My expertise is building relationships with parents, getting them to understand policies and procedures. No one wants to go to a school and get cursed out or be treated indifferent. I want to go what I do through my foundation, which is the South Dallas Parent Coalition, in which I founded. I realized that when parents go into a school, how they're treated. So what I've decided to do is train our parents. Communication is the key to everything. And when we build relationships with people, we can change the mindset. I've served on so many SBDMs, guys, I can't even remember. I'm a lifetime member of PTA. I've served on so many PTAs, helped get them started, PTOs. My mission is to ensure that parents and teachers understand how important education is, because knowledge is power.
All right.
I feared last Friday was gonna happen in the ISD. I feared that because that was going on in my neighborhood schools. So what could we learn and what could the district do differently to prevent something worse from happening from what we heard on Friday?
Any question? All right, Mr. Turner.
What happened, I agree with you, that was a big fear of mine too. And it's unfortunate that if somebody wants to come and do harm, they're gonna figure out a way to come and do harm. That's why we gotta make sure at the school, we have all the safety measures in place to make sure that that doesn't happen. Random backpack checks, locker checks, whatever it is, they need to come up with a plan. But the thing that was really concerning for me was the communication to parents. The time that it took for parents to be notified about what was happening and what was going on. And I know some people say, well, you should go up there. If that's my baby and you got a school shooting, I'm the first person up there, okay? You're not gonna make me sit and wait until I find out because I want to know what's going on. We could have done a better job in communicating with the parents about what's going on with the school, giving them a status update, and so they can at least have some little bit of relief on what's going on and the status of their babies. I'm happy the shooter got caught. It's unfortunate someone got hurt, but we got to do a better job of communicating.
Ms. Wallace.
At Skyline High School, we've become proactive. We've seen this for quite a while. Skyline is the largest high school in Dallas, DISD. Over 300,000 square feet, I think 130 doors. And we feared this for the last 15 plus years. What we've done is started a dance club. We're bringing fathers, uncles, cousins, brothers into the building. We're bringing people in to help us watch our children. But most important, why aren't we looking at our students and identifying those that possess those type of behaviors that might lead to something like that? We have to evaluate, we have to identify, and then we have to build a relationship. Let's be old-fashioned. Let's bring mentoring programs back. Give someone an opportunity to tell someone what's going on. Communicate. Hey, I got a problem at home. I don't know how to deal with it. Mental health is important, but guess what's the first thing to go when we start cutting our budget? Mental health issues.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chapman.
So as we talk about this issue, a couple things. Anonymous alerts. This is a program and app that is used in a lot of our ISDs that give everybody on the campus the same opportunity to report any suspicious activity, regardless of how serious or unserious it might be. And so we've got to make sure that everyone is aware and cognizant and trained so that they know in any type of situation, go to that app because it's the first step line of defense for our campuses. On top of that, we've got to make sure that students don't suffer because of money. We need to put at least 2 school resource officers on every campus and 3 on high schools. Because again, as my colleagues mentioned, this is not adults bringing the problems in. These are our babies. And so we've got to make sure that we have people on campus who are equipped and trained to deal specifically with our students so that we can mitigate any of those dangerous opportunities that they might arise. Again, this is something that they're doing, so we got to make sure we approach them where they are. We can't.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me just say, I love the audience questions. Again, if you're online, please submit your questions to be asked by our candidates on stage.
Good evening, Ola Allen. I have 2, but he hasn't given us directives and direction on it.
Combine it.
One of my most important is this methodical system that the board has when you come down and speak. I am challenging you guys to change that concept. Find a way. I need you to tell me how can you find a way to reach the presenters? How can you find a way to have someone to explain to them exactly their concerns instead of letting them come down, talk, and go away the same way they came in. And number 2 is that we need to work on communication. We have so many parents knows nothing about SBDM. We have over 40% of our schools have no PTO or no PTA. Until you develop a program, a concept, a system that involves parents, you're going to continue to have problems with students, because parents are our students' first teacher.
Thank you. Thank you. Everybody understand the question?
No.
Can you abbreviate?
Was it just a statement of awareness?
Okay.
No, I
We'll give the abbreviated version. Hold on. Abbreviated version.
Okay, listen. I like for you guys to, listen, without the system they got, or when you come down to speak, I'm asking you guys to challenge that, change it, because you come down to speak and that's the end of it. Number two, I want us to start trying to get parents and communities involved with communication. We have lack of communication, it's no good. We need to get rid of it.
Okay.
All right. With that being said, we'll start with Ms. Wallace.
I'm sometimes embarrassed as a parent to go to a board meeting because what I hear are other people from the community saying the same thing over and over and over. I heard one lady say at her school, she's been coming for 20 years. I know she's not lying because I've been going for about 15. What I want to do is to make sure that my colleagues in District 9, they don't have to come down and speak. I'm going to already be available to them in the community. Not just on a monthly basis, but I'm talking about if it's necessary, bi-weekly or weekly. My goal is to establish a relationship with those parents who feel like they don't have a voice in the district. Those kids that are disruptive in the district, or those kids that need someone else in addition to. I want to be that voice. So when you come up to speak in D9, I want them to already have their issues resolved because they've already communicated with me and we've already had a resolution.
Mr. Chairman.
I think to answer your question, it would be consistency. And what I mean by that is, in opposition to what my colleague just said, I would hold these town hall meetings on a monthly basis, because having that consistency, having that, I know I'm going to be able to talk to my council member, I'm going to be able to talk to my trustee the third Thursday of the month. Having that consistency will build some type of relationship. And so that's the first step on that. I think it's very important that we are accessible. On top of that, I'm a teacher. I love talking. I talk a lot. I do it for a living. And so being able to have someone who is not foreign to the idea of communicating with a large or small group of people is integral to this part, because we're electing a community member to the highest legislative body in our educational system. And so I think it's very important that we have that consistency in communication so that we can build that relationship. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker.
As a community organizer, I've done a lot of work in helping schools build their PTAs, build their PTOs, build their SBDMs, and increase parental involvement and parental engagement on DISD campuses. And I've been very, very successful by doing so, by creating opportunities for how do parents communicate with everyone. How do we have something for every parent? How do we have something for a special group of parents? And then how do you have something for that top tier parents that you know that everyone is going to listen to? And then you said coming to the board. When people come to the board and they're in D9 and they have an issue, I'm going to immediately follow up with that person. I'm going to have a conversation with that person. I'm also going to have community meetings throughout my district. I want to make sure that every school in my district have a full functioning PTO and a full functioning SBDM, and I would not be satisfied until that happened. And I will hold the district accountable, but whoever else needs to be held accountable to make sure that we have that. Because if we don't have involved parents, we don't have a full functioning SBDM, I can guarantee you it's a highly chance that we have a struggling school.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I know a couple of people up there pretty well, and I have a shocking question to ask everybody. I was at school, I go to all the school board meetings, as a matter of fact, okay, all of them. A student, James Madison, came to the school board and said to the school board, to a principal, that said to her, you be like your mother, you be lying on your back. I repeat this. A principal allegedly said to a student at the school board meeting, you be like your mother, you be lying on your back. I said this to people outside the school board meeting, they've been shocked about this, okay? What would you do about this to straighten out the school board or the administration to have this principal looked at and maybe fired or suspended or what? I don't know whatever happened, but I thought she was fired, but she was rehired or something back at the school. They know what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. You understand the question? All right. Mr. Chapman.
In instances like this and other like instances, it's important that we understand clarity and boundaries. Every employee of Dallas ISD has our name on them, and so we want to make sure that they comport themselves in a way that is honorable to that name. And so, to answer your question, our board must empower administrators, and at times, if we need to, we must take strong hand and outline for our employees that this is the comportment that we must follow, and if you're outside of it, this is the consequence that will happen, that must happen. That way, we have no gray lines or gray space about what we should and should be doing, because things like that shouldn't happen in a setting like that. So just being clear and concise about how we communicate and what our expectations should be for all of our employees, I think is the way to nip something like that in the bud. We can't be comfortable. We've got to be clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Turner.
You know, normally in an ideal situation, if a teacher misbehaves, you go to the principal and have the principal administer the consequences. You have to ask yourself, is this individual helping kids or hurting kids? And if they are hurting kids, they don't need to be around kids. So as a school board trustee, no, I have no control of hiring and firing the principal, but I can sure put some pressure on the superintendent to let that superintendent know that this is not for kids. And I can also organize the community and organize other parents and other stakeholders and let them know that this is unacceptable. If you're going to disrespect one kid, you're going to disrespect a lot of kids. And we don't need anyone in our schools bullying kids or disrespecting kids. Because oftentimes you will find the kids are not the problems, the adults are the problems. And that's what we're going to do, and that's what I've been going to do when something like that. Make sure I hold adults accountable for what they do to kids.
Thank you.
That's good.
Ms. Wallace.
Good answer. Actually, whether or not we believe it, we're in the business of customer service as educators. And what happens if your customer service is poor? A lot of time your business is sometimes rated poorly, or people just refuse to come back. And what we're seeing in DISD, parents are opting out. They're opting to go to other places and receive education for their children. We need to get back in the business of servicing our customers. We need to make sure that if that does happen, we take it to the next level. There's protocols for this. If kids are being disrespected or bullied, or vice versa, if teachers are being disrespected, bullied, we have to have protocols and we have to follow that. And we have to have a relationship with our superintendent, because what we have to do first and foremost is protect what's the most important thing, and those are our kids in those classrooms. Because if they choose not to come back, what happens? They turn to the streets, and we just can't afford that as parents or educators.
Thank you, thank you. All right. This question comes from online, to all the candidates. How can you address creating smaller class sizes for poor performing schools and increase the full-time equivalent of full-time employment positions regardless of the campus rating? I'll read it again. How can you address creating smaller class sizes for poor performing schools and increase the full-time employment positions regardless of campus rating? And we'll start with Mr. Turner.
Well, that definitely comes a challenge because you got to think about the way schools are funded. Okay, schools are funded based on the metrics that the state sets in place. Of course, we all would like smaller classrooms, but when you're thinking about hiring practices, everything is based on the amount of kids that you have in the classroom, the attendance level that we have the kids, because schools are paid based on attendance. So the question that we really have to be asking if you want these things is we have to increase the attendance rates on our schools that are struggling, and the kids that are having issues with attendance, how are we being proactive? Because when we don't have kids in school, we are losing money, and then when we're losing money, we don't have resources for our campuses. So I will focus on making sure that we increase our attendance level so we can get the revenues that we need so we can hire more teachers to sustain that particular school.
Thank you. Ms. Wallace.
What I'm more so interested in is something we used to do back in the day, and that is take children and pull them out or put them in smaller groups. So how can we justify when we're gonna be cutting money out of this budget? We're losing 50 million from the state, and then we're at a $70 million shortfall ourselves with the district. It's almost impossible for us to make the classroom smaller. We're losing approximately over 100 teachers. So what can we do other than that? Identify those students that need that additional resources. Offer remediation on different, let's bring back Saturday school. Let's look at alternate ways to educate our children. Monday through Thursday, use Friday as an alternative. Put these children in groups that they can better relate and better learn. I'm not a teacher per se through certification, but I did this at home with my own, and as I stated, I have three with degrees. I'm speaking from experience.
Thank you. Mr. Chapman.
When we look at the classroom sizes in our district, it is strictly governed by a 27-to-1 ratio. That's the golden number that our district looks at when we're looking at funding and how many teachers we can afford. So if we want to talk about making class sizes smaller, we've got to focus in on policy that will support us either changing or modifying that 27-to-1 ratio and or increasing our revenue. Like my colleague said, attendance matters. Making sure that our attendance stays above 92% will give us much more revenue so that we can continue to fund our schools at level. If we can increase that, we see more funds coming in with the chance of giving more allocations to our schools to further make our class sizes smaller. But realistically, we've got to look at policy. It's policy that mandates how many students we're going to have in a classroom. And so if we're unhappy about that, we need to organize and make policy that is smarter and that will actually advance the issues we want in our classrooms. That's how we address that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Man, I had some really good questions from the audience, from either online or in person. I still had a whole bunch of questions I wanted to ask y'all.
Email.
I got like four pages of questions I could ask, but unfortunately we've come to the time where we will have a 2-minute closing from our candidates. This is your time for you to, your one last pitch. Make sure that you give to the audience how they can get in touch with your campaign. Make sure that you get that information out, and we'll begin with Ms. Wallace first. You have 2 minutes.
I just want to say thank you for having me. I've been a member of this audience quite a few times. And quite honestly, as a parent, I never thought about getting into politics. I'm not comfortable with the term of politicking on the backs of our children. I've heard that quite a bit. What I am interested in is educating our children and ensuring that we treat them with the utmost respect, and safety and well-being is the priority for all. I got into this race because I saw that the old business of politicking was going to take place. I didn't think I wanted to do this, but I did it, and I'm proud I've done it. I want to tell you this is an experience for me. I can't say being a parent, educating my children, and then working with other people in the community, did I ever think that I would reach a place where I could be at the highest point and also make decisions and have a better comprehension of how I can better this community. But here I am, and I ask that you vote. Early voting starts April 22nd through April 30th, and you can vote on May 4th. I'm here, I'm in it to win it. I want to make sure that you understand that from a parental perspective, we have a voice and we know what our children need. Some of us are very educated, some of us are very informed, and I'm that person. And I want to represent you in District 9.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Chapman.
To me, this is simple. You trust your children in our community to go to a school and be taught by educators every single day. We trust them to give them the best and to make them prepare for their futures. I implore you to take that same trust and put it in the only teacher candidate, because it only makes sense to put an educator at the highest level of educational policy in our district. I work for this. I do this because it is something that means more than just my life. This is the future of our children, of our city, of everything. And so, if you believe that as well, I strongly implore you, back the educator. I spend my life making sure our kids are prepared and that they will go out into our world and be successful. And you can bet you that a vote for me will make sure that that same goal is at every priority of that school board policy. This is what we need. You must elect an educator to the highest highest policymaking body in Dallas. I am available at dbcfordallas.com. That is my website. Please, you'll see my signs all over the place. Reach out to me. I have a big, vast network of teachers who I work with. And so again, when you vote for me, you're not just voting for this one educator, you're voting for us all. We work hard for you and your kids every day. Let me continue that work on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Turner.
I'm a product of Dallas ISD. I'm a graduate of Great James Madison High School, like I mentioned before. I'm the first in my family to go to college. I came back to this community, saw it, and died in need. I started doing the work to increase better outcomes at our school. I'm the only candidate in this race that started to help start our community, our schools, where you brought AFT, NEA, the Teachers Union, other nonprofit churches together to defeat the privatization of our education system. I'm the only candidate in this race. Also, let me not say that, but also working with Lakeisha Wallace to make sure that we have a discipline policy to make sure our kids are not getting suspended. I've worked in this race to bring, I'm also the only candidate in this race that has brought wraparound support services to nearly 10 different DISD schools in Dallas ISD. I've been doing the work. That's why I'm endorsed by the current trustee. I'm endorsed by the former trustee, Trustee Nuttall, as well as Trustee Ron Price. I'm endorsed by both AFT, both NEA, the Dallas business community. Why? Because they know my track record. They know I've done the work. They know I would not, and I can assure y'all this here, a vote for Ed Turner is a vote for someone that's gonna do what's in the best interest of kids and not what's in the best interest of adults. I'm asking you to vote for me. You can go to my website, www.turnerfordisd.com, to learn more about my candidate. To learn more about my candidacy. I need your support. I need you to vote for me. Election day is May 4th. Again, my resume shows that I am the most qualified person to be at their board because I am a collaborator. I am one that has done the work to show that I will always do what's in the best interest of kids and never in the best interest of adults. I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's give a round of applause to our candidates. Thank you for being here tonight and giving us your platform. With that, exit stage left or right. We have not only, how many elections in May? Two. First one, May 4th. May 28th. And May 28th. Early voting for May 4th begins April 22nd through the 30th. All right. With that being said, until we meet again next Monday Night Politics, thank you for coming out. Thank you online for being with us. See you next time.